Chapter 300. Holly knew that she was only saying that to comfort him and to protect his self-esteem. He was very touched. He got up and hugged her tightly. His voice was hoarse as he said, "Baby, give me 2 years. I'll definitely let you live a life of high society again." "I know. I believe in you." Su Yunxian raised her head and kissed the corner of his lips. Her smile was warm. He hugged her tightly. After the two of them finished breakfast, Holly went out to look for a job with a briefcase in his hand. Su Yunxian stood at the entrance and helped him tie his tie. He gave her a goodbye kiss. She smiled and waved. "Darling, be careful on the road." After sending Holly off, Su Yunxian stood at the small kitchen door and looked at the pots and pans in the sink. Her expression was a little dazed. After a while, she slowly squatted down, covered her face with her hands and wailed. Holly walked downstairs and realized that he had forgotten to bring his phone. He went upstairs to get his phone. After opening the door with the key, he heard Su Yunxian's sad cries. His footsteps froze. He didn't continue walking. Instead, he slowly walked out of the room and gently locked the door. He leaned against the wall and clenched his fists tightly. He thought that she was very strong, but he didn't know that she was always secretly crying behind his back. When he was at his lowest point, she still supported him without hesitation and accompanied him. She really loved him, but he couldn't abandon his ridiculous self-esteem. He angrily punched the wall. Finally, a determined expression appeared on his handsome face. He was no longer alone. He couldn't be willful anymore. He had to think of a way for the two of them to survive. Holly interviewed for 2 more companies, but he still didn't succeed. After walking out of the company, he tore up all his resumes and threw them into the trash can. He drove a newly bought second-hand car around the city and found a construction site. There were many workers busy at the site. There was also a fat man who looked like a supervisor wearing a hard hat looking around. "Hey, you're not allowed to park here. Get out of the way." The security guard at the site saw Holly's car and ordered him to drive away. Holly looked at the security guard and asked, "How much is your monthly salary?" The security guard thought that he was mocking him and was very annoyed. "I said if you don't leave, I'll call the police. Hurry up and leave." Holly's face sank. If someone dared to talk to him like this in the past, he would definitely teach that person a lesson. But now, he tried to suppress his anger and said, "I think you misunderstood. What I mean is that I need a job." The security guard looked at him suspiciously. "If I'm not mistaken, the clothes you're wearing are very expensive. Are you sure you're not joking?" Hua looked at him with sincere eyes. "It's true. My company went bankrupt, so I need a job urgently." The security guard pointed at the empty space next to him. "Park your car over there first, then come and find me." "Okay, thank you." Holly followed the security guard's instructions and parked the car across the road. Then he went to the security booth to find the security guard. The security guard put on his hat and said, "Come with me. I'm an old friend of the supervisor here. He said 2 days ago that he needed to recruit a construction worker. If you can bear the hardships, you can give it a try." "Okay, no problem. By the way, what's your name?" "Holly." The security guard took Holly to the fat supervisor. "Gary, this guy named Holly wants to find a job. Aren't you short of people? What do you think of him?" Gary looked Holly up and down and narrowed his small eyes. "Young man, are you really going to work at a construction site? This is a very hard job. I think you're more suited to work in an office." "I'm not afraid of hard work. I want to support my family." Gary nodded. "Well, you can try to work for a week. If there's no problem, I'll hire you. You'll work 8 hours a day, 25 euros per hour, and your salary will be paid daily. When you become a regular worker, your salary will be raised to 30 euros per hour. We'll also buy you insurance and you can enjoy the welfare policy." Holly nodded. "I understand. Can I start working now?" "Yes." "Hey Chester, come over here." Gary shouted at the top of his voice. A tall, thin black man ran over. "Gary, what's the matter?" "Chester, this is the new Holly. Take care of him. Be careful." "No problem." Chester reached out his hand. "Hello, Holly. Welcome." Holly looked at his hands that were covered with lime. He hesitated for a moment and politely shook his hand. "Hello, Chester." "Well, now I'll take you to work." Holly and Chester walked away. The security guard looked at their backs and said, "Gary, I didn't expect you to hire him so easily." Gary pressed down on his helmet and said, "I didn't expect him to come to my site either." The security guard was surprised. "You know him?" Gary shrugged. "I guess that all the bosses in Rome know him now. The Dark Knight family has already sent his photo to us." "What? Is he wanted by the Dark Knight family?" Idiot, he's Tomac's nephew, but Tomac has cut ties with him. Tomac told all the big companies in Rome that they are not allowed to apply for Holly. Then you're in trouble. Tomac only forbade big companies from applying for him. Of course, our small site is different. What's more, he's not applying for an executive position, but for a construction worker at the bottom. This is allowed. That's strange. Does Tomac want to shut Holly out or help him? Gary shrugged. On the surface he's shutting him out, but in fact he's helping him. A proud person like him can only grow up after experiencing setbacks and putting him at the bottom. So that's how it is. Tomac has really put a lot of thought into this. I hope that guy lives up to Tomac's efforts. With the help of Chester, Holly began to familiarize himself with his work. It was all physical work and very dirty. He couldn't help but want to run away several times. But when he thought of Su Yunqian's painful look, he gave up the idea of running away. On the other hand, Su Yunqian also began to look for a job. She browsed a lot of job postings on the internet and in newspapers. But when she called, she was turned down. She intended to use her skills to visit many antique shops and auction companies, but no one was willing to hire her. She really understood the pain and humiliation that Holly suffered when he was looking for a job. She carried her handbag and walked on the busy street. Looking at the hurried crowd, she suddenly felt very tired. Since she was a child, she had been a proud daughter of a rich family. She had lived a rich life and had never worried about money. But now she had to restrain her desire to buy things. She had to calculate how to save money. When she applied for a job, she also had to face the doubts and disdain of those people. She had had enough. She walked into a high-end coffee shop. This coffee shop was located in the Plaza de España. It had a history of hundreds of years. The decoration was elegant. There were expensive paintings hanging on both sides of the corridor. The quiet atmosphere and rich historical background attracted a lot of customers. Su Yunqian sat on the dark red velvet sofa and ordered the most expensive coffee. Holding the coffee cup, her fingers were trembling. She was struggling in her heart. Should she leave Holly? Could she really leave him? She didn't expect to meet the two people she didn't want to see the most at this time. Honey, how's the environment here? Do you like it? Yes, it's very beautiful. Hubby, you're amazing. You found such a great place. It was Bailey Han and Xia Dong. He was wearing an Italian handmade suit and looked handsome. She was wearing a red dress and looked beautiful and charming. The two of them were holding hands and smiling at each other. What a loving couple. Su Yunqian held the coffee cup tightly in her right hand. Her eyes were like sharp knives as she stared at the two people walking towards her. Bailey Han sensed the gaze from the side. He turned his head and saw Su Yunqian's frosty face. The smile on his handsome face gradually froze. Xia Dong also saw it and was slightly stunned. Hua smiled faintly. In her eyes, Su Yunqian was like a tiger with its teeth pulled out. There was no need to fear her. But in Su Yunqian's eyes, her smile turned into mockery. Su Yunqian put down the coffee cup and stood up. She raised her head proudly and slowly walked in front of the two of them. She looked at Bailey Han and asked, "When you heard the news of my death, were you sad at all?" She had always wanted to ask him this question. Bailey Han said faintly, "No, you're not worth it." Su Yunqian's expression changed and her eyes were filled with hatred. "I gave up everything for you, but all I got in return is not worth it." Bailey Han, do you have a heart? Yes. Bailey Han's gaze fell on Xia Dong and the corners of his lips curled up warmly. My heart is with my wife. As for your life and death, I don't care at all. Bailey Han. Su Yunqian's beautiful face was distorted with anger. She raised her arm and slapped his handsome face. A hand grabbed her wrist. It was Xia Dong. Xia Dong laughed coldly. Su Yunqian, do you think I'm dead? How dare you hit my man? She grabbed Su Yunqian's wrist and pushed it hard. Su Yunqian staggered back and almost fell. As she retreated, she bumped into the waiter who was holding a tray and the cup of hot coffee splashed all over her back. Ah, she screamed miserably. The skin on her back was in excruciating pain. I'm very sorry, Mississippi. Please come with me to the changing room to treat your burns. The waiter, who was wearing a tuxedo, had undergone strict training and was not flustered in the face of danger. He invited her politely. Su Yunqian pushed the waiter away and rushed in front of Xia Dong. She shouted angrily, Xia Dong, you be *teased. Before she could finish scolding, Xia Dong suddenly raised her hand and slapped her hard on the face. Slap. Everyone was stunned and they turned their shocked and curious gazes over. Including Su Yunqian. She covered her face in shock. Xia Dong slowly retracted her hand. She looked down and moved her wrist. Her expression was nonchalant. Su Yunqian, I've wanted to hit you for a long time. Today I finally got my wish. As she said that, she suddenly raised her head and stared sharply at Su Yunqian. You think you love Ahan, but you're wrong. You don't love him as a person. You love his looks, family background, power, and status. For his halo, you didn't hesitate to hurt others, hurt yourself, and hurt your family. Su Yunqian, you're too selfish. In your heart there's no one else but yourself. People like you don't deserve the word love. No, you don't know anything. I love him. I love him as a person. Su Yunqian shouted hysterically. If you really loved him, you wouldn't have lied to him. You wouldn't have hurt his family. You wouldn't have used your life to threaten him. You wouldn't have destroyed his happy family. Xia Dong's every word was powerful and aggressive. Her eyes were cold and ruthless. She stripped Su Yunqian of her pretense in front of everyone. No, it's not like that. Su Yunqian still wanted to pester her, but Bailey Han looked at her coldly. It was as if he was looking at a stray animal by the roadside. Su Yunqian, we've already cut off all ties. If you pester me or my family again, I won't let you off. Ahan, hubby, let's go. There's someone I don't like here. No matter how good the environment is, my mood will get worse. Wifey, you're right. Xia Dong held Bailey Han's arm. The two of them didn't even look at Su Yunqian as they turned and walked out of her sight. Su Yunqian stood there in a daze. The skin on her back was burning with pain, reminding her of how pathetic she looked now. The waiter took a few steps forward and said politely, "Miss, please follow me." Su Yunqian followed behind him in a daze and walked into the dressing room. After a while, a waitress came in with a medicine box and helped her deal with the burns on her back. "Miss, your clothes are dirty. Do you want to call your friend to send some clothes over?" "No, thank you." Su Yunqian refused her kindness. She put on the dirty dress again, raised her chin, and walked out of the cafe step by step to maintain her dignity. When Holly returned home, Su Yunqian was preparing dinner in the kitchen. "Baby, I'm back." Holly walked behind her and hugged her from behind with one hand. Her body trembled and she made a weak sound. "What's wrong?" Holly turned her shoulder with concern. Su Yunqian smiled reluctantly. "I'm fine. Did everything go well today?" Holly's attention was successfully diverted by her. A bright smile appeared on his face. "I found a job. Look, this is my gift to you." He stretched out his left hand that was hidden behind his back. A bouquet of beautiful roses bloomed in his hand, emitting a fragrant scent. Her eyes were a little moist. Her fingers trembled as she took the roses. She mumbled, "Did it cost a lot?" Hongcha 866. Chapter 301. Holly felt a little sad. He hugged her and kissed her forehead. "Don't worry. I got my salary today." She looked up at him and asked with concern, "What's your job?" "An ordinary company employee. It's a small company, so my salary is paid daily." "Really?" "Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you?" He smiled and said, "I'm going to take a shower first. Thank you for your hard work, baby." "Okay, go ahead." Su Yunqian heard the sound of the bathroom door closing. She carried the roses to the living room and put them in a vase. Looking at the delicate flowers, the corners of her lips slowly curled up. They were like an ordinary couple. After dinner they sat on the sofa and watched TV. At first they were still watching and chatting, but in the end, when she didn't hear his response, she turned around and saw that he had fallen asleep on the sofa. Su Yunqian wanted to wake him up, but when she saw his frown, she closed her mouth again. She took a blanket from the bedroom and covered him with it. It was only 9 o'clock. For them who were used to the nightlife, it seemed a little early to go to bed. The TV program was very boring and she didn't want to watch it anymore. She took her clothes to the bathroom to take a shower. After taking off her clothes, she turned her back to the mirror and tried to look at her back. There was a palm-sized burn on her back and her skin was red. The hot water poured on the wound and it hurt. She gritted her teeth and endured the pain. After taking a shower, she returned to the living room and sat beside Holly. She stared at him while drying her hair. He had a very handsome face, a high nose bridge and deep eye sockets. Those eyes were especially charming. His brows were knitted together and he seemed to have a lot on his mind. She sighed softly. So be it. At least he still loved her. She reached out and rubbed the wrinkles between his brows. He suddenly opened his eyes and sat up slowly. "How did I fall asleep? Is the TV show over?" Su Yunqian smiled. "You're too tired. Go back to the room and sleep." He smiled mischievously. "Okay, I'll go back first and wait for you on the bed." She pursed her lips and didn't say anything. She deliberately dawdled for a long time. Thinking that he had fallen asleep, she walked into the bedroom. Unexpectedly, as soon as she pulled the blanket away, he pulled her into his arms. His eyes opened slightly and with a hazy sleepiness he asked, "Why did you take so long?" "My hair is just drying now," she lied casually. He suddenly hugged her tightly, his hands caressing her back. His hand happened to touch her wound. It hurt so much that she trembled. "What's wrong?" Holly finally realized that something was wrong and sat up. "Take off your clothes." "No, I'm already very tired." Su Yunxian clutched the collar of her pajamas tightly. "Let me see." "Be good." Holly realized that she seemed to be hiding something. He grabbed her clothes and pulled them up bit by bit. There was a patch of red skin on her back and there were even some small blisters. His eyes narrowed. "What's going on? How did you get hurt?" "I accidentally scalded myself. I was afraid that you would be angry, so I didn't dare to tell you." She bit her lip and avoided his angry eyes. "Idiot, why didn't you treat your injury?" "It's okay. It's just a small injury. I've already applied medicine." He ordered coldly. "The wound is already blistered. Don't tear it. Be careful of infection. Give me the ointment." "Okay." She took out a small tube of ointment from the bedside drawer and placed it on his palm. He lowered his head and gently applied the ointment for her. Even though he was already very careful, she still trembled in pain. After applying the ointment, he took off her pajamas. "Don't wear clothes. Otherwise, the fabric will rub against your back and it will be easy to get infected." "Oh," she said. She covered her chest with both hands and was a little embarrassed. "Lie down facing me." She lay down facing him. His right arm was around her waist, and he used his arm to support the quilt behind her to prevent the quilt from rubbing against her wound. He was bare-chested and wore a pair of boxer shorts. She was also bare-chested and wore a pair of laces underwear. The two of them were facing each other naked. He shifted his body and pressed against her. Her softness was pressed against his chest. Although they had been more intimate than this was the first time Su Yunxian felt her heart race. She nervously closed her eyes. She felt his burning gaze intertwining on her body. Then he lowered his head and kissed her forehead. His voice was hoarse and full of love. "Good night, baby. Good night." She opened her eyes and kissed him on the lips. The next morning she woke up in his arms. His hand was still around her waist. She felt that her back was empty, and the quilt didn't rub against her wound. She didn't expect that he would maintain this position for the entire night. Su Yunxian felt an inexplicable feeling in her heart. It was very warm and comforting. "Good morning, baby." He opened his eyes and his light blue eyes were filled with smiles. "Good morning, darling." She smiled sweetly. "I'll go make breakfast. You can sleep for a while. Does your wound still hurt?" "It doesn't hurt anymore." "Let me take a look." He lifted the quilt, and her beautiful figure was completely exposed in front of him. She was a little embarrassed, but he didn't care. He held her waist and back and observed for a moment. "It looks like it's a little better. Let me apply some medicine for you." He disinfected the wound with alcohol and applied medicine. After the two of them washed up, she fried eggs and he helped to cut the ham. Su Yunxian watched him holding the knife and shook her head with a smile. "Darling, I'm really worried that you'll cut your finger." "Why would I? I'm best at using a knife." She burst into laughter. "Are you sure you're good at using a knife, not killing people?" He shrugged. "Killing people is the same as cutting vegetables." She shuddered. "Stop talking. It's so disgusting. I won't eat ham later." He laughed out loud. Holly wore a suit and leather shoes and carried his briefcase to work. In fact, he didn't need to wear a suit at the construction site, but in order to not arouse Su Yunxian's suspicion, he had to wear it. Su Yunxian tidied up the kitchen and planned to wash Holly's dirty clothes. She found that there was a lot of mud on his trousers. She thought that he had accidentally gotten it on when he walked and didn't care. However, as he became more and more tired after work every day, and the mud on his trousers never disappeared, she began to feel suspicious. After dinner that day, she leaned in his arms and asked, "Darling, is your work very hard? You look very tired when you come home every day." "Yes, it's very hard. You know, I've never worked hard before. Now I realize that work is so hard." She was thoughtful. "Where's your company? Let's have lunch together tomorrow, okay?" He stroked her hair. "My company is very small and it's very far from home. I don't want you to work so hard and come to my place." "Okay then, I'll cook Chinese food for you tomorrow night. Remember to come back early." Okay, I'll come back early. Su Yunqian knew very well that he was hiding something from her. Holly had to go to work. As soon as he left, Su Yunqian secretly followed him. She saw him drive out of the street and hurriedly waved for a taxi. After getting in, she immediately told the driver to follow Holly's car. In the meantime, the taxi encountered a red light. When the light turned green, Holly's car was long gone. Sorry we lost him, the driver said apologetically. Su Yunqian was a little discouraged. Forget it. Let's stop by the side. After failing to follow him the first time, Su Yunqian followed him a second time. This time, because the taxi driver followed too closely, Holly seemed to realize that someone was following him. He deliberately led them around and lost them. For the third time, Su Yunqian simply put a small tracker in the trunk of his car. She asked the taxi driver to follow the route shown by the tracker and finally found Holly's destination. However, Su Yunqian wasn't happy at all. In fact, she was in a terrible mood. She stood outside the construction site and saw many people in work clothes busy. Many of their trousers were stained with mud and sand. She finally knew what Holly was doing. Su Yunqian thought that she wouldn't cry for any man again, but she couldn't control herself and tears flowed down like an open tap. The passers-by on the road noticed her abnormality and looked at her curiously. As if she didn't see them, she covered her mouth with both hands and cried bitterly. Her actions finally attracted the concern of a stranger. Miss, are you okay? Su Yunqian shook her head and the man handed her a handkerchief. Thank you. She took the handkerchief and wiped the tears on her face. She gradually controlled her emotions and looked at the busy workers in the distance. She didn't see Holly, but she knew that he was one of them. She bit her lip and turned to leave. The man who handed her the handkerchief suddenly said, Miss, do you need me to give you a ride? Su Yunqian turned to look at him. She finally saw his face clearly. He was in his 40s, wearing a suit and leather shoes. He was handsome and had the charm of a mature man. He had a kind smile on his face. Don't misunderstand. I can see that you're not in a good mood. So you're worried that I'll do something to hurt myself? Su Yunqian smiled sarcastically. So, I look so pathetic? That's not what I meant. The man smiled helplessly. I'm sorry. I don't seem to be very good at comforting people. Su Yunqian smiled. It's okay. I'm being too sensitive. She raised the handkerchief in her hand. Thank you for the handkerchief. Goodbye. The man smiled. If you don't mind, I'll give you a ride. Take it as my apology. Awesome novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 302. Su Yunqian followed his gaze and saw his car parked not far away. It was a Rolls-Royce. She lowered her eyes and smiled faintly. All right then. Thank you for your trouble. This way, please. After they got into the car, the man handed her a business card. My name is Paul. May I know your name? Shui Rian. Su Yunqian glanced at the business card. It was the CEO of UWI Construction Company. As far as she knew, UWI was one of the top construction companies in Italy. Her eyes flickered slightly. Paul said as he drove, Miss Shui, where do you live? I'll get off at the square. Sorry to trouble you. More than half an hour later, the car stopped at the place Su Yunqian mentioned. Paul opened the door for her like a gentleman. Miss Shui, it's nice to meet you. I hope we'll have a chance to meet again in the future. Nice to meet you too, Mr. Paul. The two smiled and parted ways. The Rolls-Royce disappeared from her sight. Su Yunqian looked at the business card in her hand and smiled. She put the business card into her handbag. The square was not far from where she lived. She walked to the nearest supermarket and bought a large bag of vegetables, fruits, and supplements. In the afternoon, Su Yunqian was busy in the kitchen. She planned to make braised fish. She took the fish out of the fridge and opened the fresh-keeping bag. A strong fishy smell assailed her nose. Her stomach churned. She quickly covered her mouth and ran to the bathroom to vomit on the toilet. After vomiting, she had no energy left. Looking at herself in the mirror, Su Yunqian had a bad feeling. It seemed that she had not had her period for more than a month. Could she be pregnant? The more she thought about it, the more nervous she became. She immediately changed her clothes, took her wallet and went downstairs to the nearest supermarket to buy a pregnancy test. She held the pregnancy test and did not dare to test it for a long time. Suddenly she heard the sound of the door lock. Holly had returned. She did not expect that she would hesitate and struggle for more than an hour. Su Yunqian quickly stuffed the pregnancy test under the sofa cushion and walked into the kitchen. She covered her mouth and nose and continued to cook braised fish. Baby, I'm back. Holly's tall figure appeared at the kitchen door. He had a bright smile on his face and a bottle of red wine in his hand. We can spend a romantic night together. In fact, he had become a regular worker today and his salary had increased. He wanted to celebrate. Su Yunxian smiled and said, "Darling, you're back. The food will be ready soon. You can take a bath first." Holly leaned over and kissed her on the cheek and said, "Good." Su Yunxian placed the braised fish in front of him and sat opposite him, away from the fishy smell. During the meal, she did not touch the braised fish at all. Holly was a little surprised. "Baby, don't you like fish very much? Why aren't you eating today?" "My stomach is a little uncomfortable. The smell of fish makes me sick." Su Yunxian fanned her nose exaggeratedly. He put down his chopsticks. "Are you all right?" "It's okay. I've already gone to the hospital for a checkup. There's no problem. As long as you pay attention to your diet, you'll get better." "Why didn't you say so earlier? Don't drink the red wine anymore." He took away the wine glass in front of her. "You're not feeling well tonight. Rest early. I'll clean the kitchen." Su Yunxian smiled. "When did you learn how to do housework? Why didn't I know?" Holly walked to her side and hugged her. His voice was a little low. "If you can learn, I can too." She used to be with him and was used to living a good life. There were many servants to serve her. Even if she was in the mood to cook for him occasionally, she had never washed the dishes or mopped the floor. But now she was doing all these things very well. Every time Holly felt that the work was hard and difficult to persevere, he would think of the pain she had suffered and then have the motivation to persevere. He kissed her earlobe and said softly, "None of the friends who used to call me brothers helped me when I was in trouble. None of the women who used to say that they loved me were willing to have anything to do with me. Only you were willing to accompany me at this time. Sometimes I can't help but thank disaster. It made me realize what a great woman I have." Su Yunxian leaned into his arms, her eyes drooping slightly to hide the tears inside. "Baby, I swear that our bitter days are only temporary. I will think of a way to make a comeback." "I know, I believe you." Her voice was a little choked up. "All right, you're not feeling well. Go rest first." He rubbed her hair. Su Yunxian lay on the bed, listening to the crisp sound of cups and bowls colliding in the kitchen. She felt a little frustrated. She felt that the development of the situation was getting further and further away from the path she had expected. After thinking for a long time, she decided to find out if she was pregnant or not. After Holly went to work, she took a pregnancy test and found that she was really pregnant. At that moment, she was about to break down. Ring, ring, ring. The landline in the living room rang. Su Yunxian took a deep breath. "Hello, who is this?" "Hello, is this Miss Xue?" "I'm Paul. Do you remember me?" A man's magnetic voice came from the phone. Su Yunxian said coldly, "Mr. Paul, how do you know my phone number?" "Through the phone, Miss Xue. Ever since we met yesterday, I've been thinking about you. Do you have time? I'd like to treat you to a cup of coffee." "Sorry, I'm busy. I don't have time." "When do you have time?" Su Yunxian frowned. "Mr. Paul, I want to remind you that I already have a boyfriend." "I know, and I also know that his name is Holly. He's been banned by the Dark Knight family." Paul's voice was ambiguous. "There's no need for a beauty like you to continue living a hard life with him. If you change your mind, you can contact me at any time." After ending the call, Su Yunxian leaned against the sofa. She looked at the pregnancy test on the tea table and covered her face with her hands. Her thin shoulders trembled and tears slowly flowed down from between her fingers. At the construction site, a man in a hard hat and overalls was standing on a high steel frame. A safety rope was tied around his waist and he was working high up. Even though it was far away, Su Yunxian recognized that it was Holly. In the past few days, she had secretly come to the construction site to see him every day and learned about his work. In short, he did all the dirty and tiring work on the construction site, and sometimes he did some very dangerous work. In order not to be discovered by him, she wore big sunglasses, a t-shirt, torn jeans and a pair of sneakers. In short, even if he found her, he would never recognize her. "Miss, it's very dangerous here. Please don't stay here." A security guard came over to remind Su Yunxian. "Got it? I'll leave right away." Su Yunxian looked sideways at Holly, who was working high up in the air, and then turned to leave. Gradually, a decision came to her mind. "Miss Xue, we meet again." A Rolls-Royce suddenly stopped beside Su Yunxian. The door opened and Paul's tall figure appeared in front of her. She nodded politely. "Mr. Paul." Paul smiled. "You're dressed very special today. If you hadn't taken off your glasses just now, I wouldn't have recognized you." Su Yunxian pursed her lips. You seem to be here all the time. Paul shrugged and laughed exaggeratedly. You don't think I'm following you, do you? In fact, I'm talking about a project with this construction company. He raised his chin at the construction site where Holly was. Do you, the CEO, need to talk about a project in person? Su Yunxian looked suspicious. Paul raised his eyebrows and spread his hands. It can't be helped. Although this construction company is small, the boss is very stubborn. We've been talking about the acquisition for nearly half a month, but we still haven't succeeded. Su Yunxian's eyes flickered. You're planning to acquire this company? Yes. If the acquisition is successful, we might have to fire some of the employees. Paul pointed out. Su Yunxian's fingernails dug into her palms. She had a faint smile on her face. Mr. Paul, if you have something to say, just say it. Paul smiled and said, Miss Shui is very smart. I don't think I need to make it too clear. Are you going home? Shall I give you a ride? Su Yunxian quietly looked into his deep eyes. It was a pair of shrewd and scheming eyes. She slowly curled her lips and chuckled. All right, thank you for your trouble. You're welcome. Please get in the car. Paul opened the car door and made an inviting gesture. After driving for half an hour, Su Yunxian realized that the route wasn't right. She turned around and asked Paul, This isn't my way home. Where are we going? I'll take you to a place. We can also have a cup of coffee on the way. Su Yunxian frowned. Mr. Paul, have you always been so assertive? No, I'm only like this for you. Paul looked at her seriously, his eyes flashing with passion. Rian, do you believe in love at first sight? An elegant and perfect woman like you definitely won't believe in such a vulgar plot. However, it did happen, so please listen carefully. I've never loved someone so deeply until I met you. Su Yunxian was slightly stunned and smiled. As you said, I don't believe in love at first sight. I'll make you believe it. Paul smiled confidently. They had arrived at their destination. Su Yunxian looked through the car window and saw a jewelry store opposite. She pursed her lips. Why did you bring me here? You'll know soon. Su Yunxian didn't know what Paul was up to. She followed him into the jewelry store. The store manager immediately greeted them. Mr. Paul, welcome, welcome. Looking at the situation, the two of them seemed to be very familiar with each other. Paul introduced, Rian, this is Charles. Charles, this is my friend Shui Rian. Hello, Miss Shui, I'm the store manager here. It's my honor to serve the two of you. Paul smiled. Charles, I'm here to pick up that thing. Okay, please follow me. Charles led them to the VIP room. A clerk served them coffee. Charles said, Please wait for a moment. I'll go get that thing now. Okay. Su Yunxian sat on the expensive leather sofa. Paul kept staring at her. That kind of gaze made her a little uneasy. She pretended to take a sip of the coffee. He suddenly said, I've never seen a woman as confident as you. Even if you're wearing inappropriate clothes, you're still so calm and composed. You don't even have any sense of embarrassment. You even make the onlookers have the illusion that they're wearing the wrong clothes. Su Yunxian raised her eyebrows and faintly said, Why do I feel that your words seem to be reminding me that my current attire is not suitable for this place? Paul helplessly smiled. It must be your misconception. I'm obviously praising you. Rian, if my previous words have offended you, I apologize to you. Please let down your guard against me, okay? Su Yunxian put the coffee cup on the table and faintly smiled. I'm sorry. After going through so many things, I've put thorns all over my body because I don't want to get hurt again. Paul stared into her eyes and said sincerely, I've heard about the things between you and Holly. I can tell you frankly that I have nothing to do with the Dark Knight family, and I won't do anything for them. The only reason I approach you is because I love you. Su Yunxian quietly stared at him as if she was considering the truth of his words. After a long while, her lips curved into a smile. That kind of smile was different from a polite smile. It was a very sincere smile. Thank you. Paul also smiled. When he was about to say something, the store manager, Charles, came in with a red velvet box in his hand. Sorry to keep you waiting. Charles opened the box. A very beautiful emerald pearl necklace lay inside. Charles introduced, Mr. Paul, this is the necklace you asked us to look for. It used to be Queen Mary's favorite. Charles, thank you. Paul reached out and shook Charles's hand. You're welcome. The two came out of the jewelry store. Paul drove to a high-end coffee shop. The two sat in the elegant coffee shop. Paul put the red velvet box in front of Su Yunxian. Rian, when I first saw you, I felt that this necklace was very suitable for you. Su Yunqian used to be an antique appraiser. She was very clear about the value of this necklace. It was worth at least $3 million. Even for her who used to be rich, this was not a small amount. She calmly refused. Mr. Paul, this gift is too expensive. I can't accept it. Well, I'll keep it. I think one day you'll be willing to accept it. He was very confident. Su Yunqian smiled but did not say a word. The two talked happily. During the conversation, Su Yunqian moderately showed her knowledge and accomplishment. Paul's impression of her was getting better and better. Su Yunqian also saw his maturity, wisdom, and humor. She gradually let down her guard against him. When they parted, Paul hugged her like a friend. She didn't refuse. Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 303. In the following week, Paul was like an old friend. He often called Su Yunqian and asked her out for coffee or dinner. She would occasionally accept his kind intentions. They had a lot in common and had a lot to talk about. He even revealed his personal feelings to her. He told her that he was married and had a son and a daughter with his ex-wife. He also said that he loved her and wanted to marry her. She just laughed it off and didn't seem to take it to heart. On the other hand, Su Yunqian was very hesitant. She didn't know if she should tell Holly about her pregnancy. She finally made up her mind, but when she really faced him, she asked, "Darling, do you like children?" Holly lazily laid on the sofa and pulled her into his embrace. "I don't really like it. Kids are noisy and annoying. But if it's an obedient and cute child like Xiao Guai, it's a different story." Su Yunqian's expression changed and her fingers suddenly grasped his arm. Holly said regretfully, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have mentioned them." Su Yunqian forced a smile. "It's okay." Actually, she wasn't upset because he mentioned Xiao Guai, but because he didn't seem to like children. Holly stroked her long hair and said gently, "Why are you suddenly asking me this question?" She smiled. "Darling, how about we have a child?" Holly's movements froze. His expression became uncomfortable, and his eyes were filled with struggle and hesitation. Su Yunqian waited for his answer and clenched her fingers nervously. His sexy lips pursed and he said slowly, "Baby, our current situation is a little bad. I think it's not suitable to raise a child for the time being." Su Yunqian was stunned. She forced a smile and hid the pain in her eyes. "Yes, you're right. It's not suitable to have a child now." He hugged her tightly and kissed her hair. "Baby, give me 2 years. I'll let us live a prosperous life again. When that time comes, we'll have a child, okay?" This was probably the first time he had asked her for her opinion, but she wasn't happy at all. She loved the child in her belly and wanted to give birth to a child, but she had to admit that Holly was right. They weren't in the condition to raise a child now. They didn't even have the right to be parents. Su Yunqian held back the tears in her eyes and nodded. "Okay, we'll have a child in the future." He stroked her back and nibbled her earlobe. "It's time to rest. I'll carry you back to the room." How could Su Yunqian not understand the meaning of his words? She quickly sat up in his arms. "Darling, I'm on my period today. It's not convenient." "Okay, we haven't had sex in a long time." He looked a little annoyed and carried her. "Looks like I'll have to endure for a few more days." Ever since Su Yunqian found out that she was pregnant, she had been using all kinds of excuses to reject his advances. Fortunately, he worked hard and his needs weren't as strong as before. The number of times she rejected him wasn't that many, so it didn't arouse his suspicions. Su Yunqian went to the hospital alone and sat in the corridor of the obstetrics and gynecology department. She saw many pregnant women doing prenatal checkups with their husbands and suddenly felt envious. She used to think that women who sacrificed everything for their families were ridiculous, but now that she was pregnant, she had the idea of being a good wife and mother. "Miss Shui, it's your turn. Please come with me." The nurse interrupted Su Yunqian's thoughts and led her into the operating room. "Miss Shui, I've looked at the checklist. The child is developing very well. Are you sure you want to abort the child?" The doctor confirmed again before she lay on the operating bed. Su Yunqian clenched her fists and took a deep breath. Then she slowly exhaled. "Yes. Please lie on the operating bed." The doctor was ready. He held the anesthetic in his hand. "Relax. I'm going to inject you with the anesthetic." The cold liquid was injected into her body. She felt herself stiffen and couldn't move her fingers. However, her eyes were still open and she tried hard to look at the figure in front of her. Someone separated her legs, and an ice-cold instrument reached into her lower body. A huge sense of fear surged like a tide. She tried hard to open her mouth and shouted with the last of her strength, Stop. 10 minutes later. Su Yunxian sat on the sofa in the corridor with a pale face. The anesthetic had worn off, but she still felt that her feet couldn't move. She took out her phone and dialed a number. It's me. Do you have time now? Half an hour later, Paul's tall figure appeared at the end of the corridor. He walked quickly to her side with an anxious look on his face. What's the matter? Are you sick? Su Yunxian looked at him in a daze. Her face was pale and she looked terrible. What's the matter? Paul grabbed her shoulders nervously. Rian, tell me. Her eyelashes fluttered and a tear rolled down. She asked in a trembling voice, Paul, do you still mean what you said? Yes, it all counts. Paul held her shoulders tightly and looked very determined. If you want to get married, we can register tomorrow. Su Yunxian's vision was blurred by tears. But, I'm pregnant? Paul froze and there was a look of disbelief on his face. She smiled bitterly. I don't want to give up the child. Paul's eyes were filled with complicated emotions. He pursed his lips and didn't say a word. Forget it. Just take it that I didn't ask anything. She pushed his hand away slowly and said softly, send me back. She stood up and walked forward slowly. Her back view looked so weak and helpless. Paul suddenly said loudly, it's okay. Su Yunxian turned around stiffly. He had already run to her and hugged her tightly in his arms. His voice was urgent. It's okay. I don't mind. When the child is born, I'll treat him as my own. I'll love him and dote on him. You know that I have 2 children with my ex-wife. Don't mind, okay? She stood there stiffly for a long time before she finally reached out and wrapped her arms around his waist. Okay, she said softly. He held her face and moved closer to her. She didn't push him away like before but closed her eyes. He kissed the corner of her lips and said softly, when will you move to my place? Let me take care of you. She looked down and said softly, give me a few days. Okay, I'll wait for you. That night Holly returned home very late. He had drunk and reeked of alcohol. He leaned against the door and knocked hard, saying, baby, I'm back. Su Yunxian had been sitting on the sofa waiting for him. When she heard the noise, she immediately ran over and opened the door for him. She couldn't help but frown when she saw how drunk he was. Holly giggled. Baby, I'm back. She was helpless and reached out to help him. I know. Come in quickly. Why did you drink so much? Party? He mumbled a few words. She didn't hear him clearly and didn't ask further. She helped him into the house and placed him on the sofa. Although it wasn't a long distance, he was very heavy. After carrying him for a while, Su Yunxian was already panting. I'll prepare the bath water for you. Take a rest first. Oh. He mumbled a few words and then lay down on the sofa. When Su Yunxian came out of the bathroom, he had already fallen asleep. She sighed and got a basin of hot water. She took a towel over and wiped his face and chest. Then she took off his shoes and covered him with a blanket. Her slender and fair fingers caressed his face. His handsome eyebrows, his straight nose, his thin lips, and his sharp chin made her chuckle. Since when did she start to miss this man? She squatted in front of him and leaned her head on his chest. She said softly, Holly, if it weren't for me, would your life be different? It was as if he could feel her sadness. He suddenly raised his hand and hugged her shoulder. She was shocked. Thinking that he had woken up, she looked up at him but saw that his eyes were closed. Just like that, she was held in his arms and maintained this position for the entire night. When she woke up, her arms, neck, and body hurt. She tried to move her stiff neck and found that he was still asleep, but his arm was still on her shoulders. She carefully moved his arm away and got up from the ground. Su Yunxian made the last breakfast and brought it to the dining table. Then she took out the small suitcase that she had already packed from the wardrobe. She kissed his forehead and quietly walked out of the room. The moment she locked the door, she looked back at Holly, who was still sleeping soundly. Her eyes glistened with tears. Paul was waiting at the intersection in the car. When he saw her coming, he took a few steps forward, took the suitcase from her hand and kissed her cheek. Good morning. She looked back in the direction of home and said, let's go. Not long after their car drove away, Holly woke up. He sat up from the sofa and rubbed his hangover head. He frowned and called out, baby. He called out a few times but no one responded. He smelled the fragrance of milk and fried eggs. He stood up and walked into the bedroom. No one was there. He opened the bathroom door but there was still no one there. He suddenly sobered up. He hurried back to the bedroom and opened the wardrobe. There were only his clothes left. Her clothes were all gone. Her pink Louis Vuitton suitcase was also gone. Holly was stunned. All the blood in his body rushed to his brain. His hands and feet were cold. No, it was impossible. She said that she would not leave him. He ran downstairs and shouted, "Baby Yunxian, where are you?" He had completely lost his mind. He wandered around the neighborhood aimlessly and called her name crazily. Other than the office workers who occasionally glanced at him curiously, no one responded to him. Awesome novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 304. Holly frantically searched for Su Yunxian. If the supervisor hadn't called him and asked him why he was absent from work, he would have forgotten about going to work. He replied that he was sick and had taken a day off. After that, he desperately tried to call Su Yunxian's cell phone, but it was turned off and there was no way to contact her. After a series of emotional changes from shock, pain, and exposure, he finally calmed down and ran to the property management office to pull up the surveillance video below the building. He saw Su Yunxian dragging her suitcase out of the building. He saw a handsome middle-aged man walk up to her, take the suitcase from her hand and kiss her cheek. The anger in his heart immediately rose like a volcano erupting. Blazing magma spread from the bottom of his heart, almost burning him to ashes. "Damn it, if I find your whereabouts, you're dead meat." At this moment, Holly had become the cold and ruthless young master of the mafia family. His eyes were filled with bloodthirsty murderous intent. However, he had nothing now. It would be difficult to find him with just a man's face. After thinking for a long time, he decided to give up his dignity and ask that person for help. Mika Kito was playing with Xiao Guai in the hospital when his cell phone suddenly rang. When he saw the caller ID, he didn't answer immediately. Xiao Guai, who was in his arms, stretched her neck to take a look and cried out in surprise, "It's Uncle Holly. Uncle Shin, I want to talk to Uncle Holly." The adults kept what happened at Hai's full moon party from the children, so Xiao Guai didn't know that the Uncle Holly she was talking about was actually a bad guy. "Okay." Mika Kito helplessly stroked Xiao Guai's little head, which had started to grow hair. After Mika Kito picked up the call, he didn't wait for the other party to speak and said in a deep voice, "Holly, I'm at the hospital now. Xiao Guai wants to talk to you." Holly had already prepared a lot of things to say, but he was at a loss for what to do when Zhang Zian beat him to it. He mumbled, "Okay. Naughty girl, here you go." Mika Kito handed the phone to Xiao Guai. Xiao Guai called out sweetly, "Uncle Holly, are you okay?" Holly's fingers suddenly tightened around the phone. He cleared his throat and said, "I'm fine, Xiao Guai. How are you?" "I'm fine too," Xiao Guai said softly. "Uncle Holly, let me tell you a piece of good news. I've started to grow my hair. Mommy said that in 2 months, my hair will be tied up and I'll be as beautiful as before." "That's great. Eat more vegetables and your hair will grow faster. Giga, you have to listen to the doctor. Don't be afraid to take medicine, okay?" Okay. "Uncle Holly, when are you coming to see me?" "In a few days. I'm very busy during this period of time." Xiao Guai frowned and quickly smiled. "Oh, I see. Then you go ahead. When you're not busy, remember to come and see me." "Okay, I'll definitely come and see you. Uncle Holly, do you have something to say to Uncle Shin?" "I'll return the phone to him." Holly said, "Okay." After a short silence, Holly heard Mika Kito's deep voice. "Why are you looking for me?" This was the first time Holly had contacted them since he was kicked out of the castle. Holly paused and said in a deep voice, "Mika Kito, I admit that I've done a lot of things to let you down. I apologize." Mika Kito picked up Xiao Guai and put her aside. He patted her head and walked to the corridor before he replied, "Even if you apologize, I won't forgive you. How could you help Su Yunxian hurt Xia?" Holly was silent for a moment. "I've done everything for the sake of power." It was a short sentence, but it explained all the evil reasons. Beitang Shin paused for a moment, then said, "If there's anything you need my help with, just say it." He understood Holly. If it wasn't for the fact that he had encountered some difficulties, he wouldn't have lowered his head to him at this time. "I want you to help me investigate a person's background and find out his whereabouts. Send me the photo." Holly took a screenshot of Paul's photo from the surveillance video and sent it to Mika Kito. Mika Kito forwarded it to the Dark Knight family. In less than an hour, he received a response and sent the information to Holly. Holly said, "Thank you." Mika Kito said calmly, "Holly, I hope you know what you're doing." Holly flipped through the information sent to him by Mika Kito. The man's name was Paul and he was the president of UWI Construction Company. The information gave him his phone number, company address and home address. Holly could find Paul through these things. Holly dialed Paul's private number. After 2 rings, a deep voice came from the other end of the line. "Hello, this is Paul." "Who is this?" Holly said coldly. "I want to talk to Shui Rian." Pass the phone to her. Paul paused and said, "She's not here. If you want to talk to her, you can call her on her cell phone." "I know she's right beside you." Pass the phone to her. He only suspected that they were together, but he didn't have any evidence. But he didn't expect a familiar voice to come from the other end of the line. "It's okay. Let me talk to him." After that, the phone was handed over to Su Yunxian, and Paul considerately left. Su Yunxian called his name in a low voice. "Holly." Holly clenched his fists tightly. He gritted his teeth and squeezed out a few words. "What?" At this moment, Su Yunxian was standing on the balcony of a luxurious villa. She looked at the sparkling swimming pool not far away and said calmly, "Because I don't want to suffer anymore. Holly, let's break up." Holly said angrily, "No, I don't believe you. We were fine 2 days ago. Tell me why." "What I said before was a lie. Holly, I've been using you all this time. Go back and beg your uncle. Maybe he can let you return to the family." "Shut up. It's not like that." "Did my uncle say something to force you to leave me?" "No, I left you because I don't want to suffer with you." "Holly, let me go." "No, you're mine. Come back immediately. I'll forgive you and continue to be like before." "You know that's impossible." Su Yunxian's eyes were filled with pain. She said word by word, "I've fallen in love with Paul." Holly roared in anger. "Su Yunxian, you hateful woman. Do you have a heart?" "I'm sorry. I don't have a heart. I'm very selfish. You should have known that, right? Holly, don't look for me in the future. I won't follow a loser." After Su Yunxian said this, she hung up and turned off the phone without waiting for his reply. Holly was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He threw the phone against the wall. This was the first time he had fallen in love with a woman, but he had been miserably deceived by this woman. He angrily smashed all the things in the room. It was a mess. After the silence, the room was as messy as he was. The air was filled with despair and anger. Holly was a very proud person. He didn't allow any betrayal. When he was still the young master of the Dark Knight family, all the people who betrayed him had gone to hell. This time was no exception. He had already prepared for the worst. He quit his job and went to the black market to buy a pistol. He drove the car to Paul's villa and waited for a few hours until Paul and Su Yunxian got in the car and came out of the villa. Holly was very good at following others. He followed the Rolls-Royce all the way to the airport. He saw Paul and Su Yunxian get out of the car hand in hand. The driver took a red suitcase out of the trunk. He knew that suitcase. It was Su Yunxian's. In the airport hall, Paul hugged Su Yunxian and said softly, "You really don't want me to accompany you?" Su Yunxian smiled. "Well, I know you're busy with work. I'm only going back to China to visit my family. I'll be back soon." Paul smiled. "When are you going to introduce me to your family?" "Next time." Su Yunxian was suddenly enlightened. She, who had been dead, suddenly stood in front of her family with a new face. Would they be willing to forgive her and accept her? Well, there's an old saying in China. An ugly daughter-in-law has to meet her parents-in-law. I, the ugly son-in-law, also have to meet my mother-in-law. He laughed and joked. Su Yunxian smiled and hugged him. "It's almost time. I'm leaving. Well, have a safe trip. I'll miss you." Paul lowered his head and kissed her lips. "Why are you leaving me? Do you really fall in love with this man?" Holly's cold voice came. Su Yunxian quickly pushed Paul away. She looked up in a panic and saw Holly standing 10 meters away. He looked a lot worse, with stubble on his chin, his shirt wrinkled, and his eyes bloodshot. She couldn't help but clench her fists when she thought that someone who cared about his appearance to the point of being harsh would look like this. "Let me ask you. Do you really fall in love with him?" Although he looked unkempt, the domineering and ruthless aura he exuded did not change. He approached her step by step, his eyes like a sharp blade cutting into her. Her legs were trembling, but she didn't retreat. She met his cold gaze and gritted her teeth. "Yes, I love him." Holly's eyes suddenly shot out a murderous look. He said sternly, "I'll give you one more chance. Come back to me." Su Yunxian dug her nails into her palm and said indifferently, "Impossible." "Good, very good." Holly suddenly pulled out a pistol from his waist and pointed it at Su Yunxian. Su Yunxian didn't seem surprised at all. She slowly closed her eyes. "Even if you kill me, I won't go back with you." Paul was stunned. He shouted, "No, don't shoot." A pistol. Someone screamed. The surrounding people retreated. In an instant, only the three of them were left in the huge hall. The airport was in chaos. Someone had already called the police. Come and see. Jianghu 799. Chapter 305. Holly turned a blind eye to everything around him. He aimed the gun at Su Yunqian, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. In the end, he suddenly turned the gun and pointed it at Paul. He said coldly, "If you don't want to go back with me, I'll kill him and tie you up." "No, don't kill me. Miss Shui, please go back with him." Paul immediately turned into a different person and raised his hands. Su Yunqian was extremely disappointed. She didn't expect Paul to be such a man. If it was Holly, he definitely wouldn't be so irresponsible. She only remembered his good points now. She said indifferently, "Don't kill him." Holly reached out a hand and stared at her with his deep eyes. "Come to my side." Su Yunqian shook her head slowly. "I won't go over, Holly. Actually, I've never loved you. I've always been using you. I wanted to use your power to snatch Bailey Han. Until now, my heart still only has Bailey Han." "No, shut up." Holly was already burning with anger. Her words were like adding fuel to the fire. The name Bailey Han was like a curse that broke the last bit of rationality in his mind. He angrily pulled the trigger. Bang! The bullet flew towards Paul's chest. Su Yunqian suddenly flew in front of Paul. The bullet shot into her chest at an extremely fast speed. A hole was opened in her chest and blood flowed out of it. Holly was stunned as if he was struck by lightning. Her body slowly slid down. "Rian," Paul growled and hugged her. He was terrified. "Rian, why did you do this?" She didn't know why either. Perhaps she just suddenly wanted to be a good person. Yunqian. Holly rushed forward and snatched her from Paul's arms. He carried her and ran out of the airport in panic. He kept saying, don't be afraid. You'll be fine. Baby, you'll be fine." Su Yunqian looked up at his anxious face. Her eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She grabbed his arm and said very softly, "Holly, there's no need. It's too late. No, you'll be fine." Tears welled up in Holly's eyes. He hugged her and covered her bleeding chest with one hand. He begged, "Yunqian, please don't get hurt. I promise. Even if you want to leave me, I'll agree. Don't get hurt. I won't leave. I won't leave anymore." Su Yunqian looked at his tear-streaked face in confusion. She said intermittently, "Actually, I lied to you. I don't love Bailey Han anymore. I love you. I love you so much. Don't say any more. Please don't say any more. Taxi." Holly stood at the intersection with her, who was covered in blood. He waved his hand wildly in the wind. Finally, a taxi stopped in front of him. He carried her into the car and said, "Hospital." The driver was frightened by the blood on their bodies and immediately drove to the nearest hospital at the speed of an airplane. "Baby, it'll be fine. Hang in there. We'll get to the hospital soon." Holly covered her wound tightly. Tears rolled down her face. She smiled absent-mindedly and said intermittently, "Holly, I'm so lucky to have met you. In this life, you spoil me. In the next life, I'll love you. No, I don't want the next life. I want this life. Su Yunqian, I order you. Don't let anything happen to you. Don't give up. We still have children. I haven't proposed to you. How can you abandon me?" Holly held her hand tightly. His tone was fierce, but he couldn't stop the tears in his eyes. She twitched violently and coughed. Bright red blood flowed out of the corner of her mouth. "Holly, no matter what happens, you have to live well. Together with my share, together. No, I want you to live with me. Please hang in there." Holly held her hand tightly. With deep panic in his eyes, he shouted at the driver, "Faster." Su Yunqian's eyes were flowing with tears. Her eyes were gradually losing focus. "Holly, when I die, send me back to China and apologize to my family for me." Her body gradually turned cold. Her fingers in his hand became stiff. Her eyes were also losing focus. She stopped breathing amidst his mournful cries. Holly hugged her and cried in grief. "Yunqian, how can you abandon me? You said that you would stay with me. You lying woman. Do you know that I love you? I love you so much." Unfortunately, she couldn't hear his call anymore. His tragic cries echoed in the narrow car. Even the driver in the front seat couldn't help but cry. The news of Su Yunqian's death finally reached the ears of Xia Dong and the others. Once a person was dead, all the past events should be put aside. After some discussion, Xia Dong, Bailey Han, and Beitang Shen finally decided to attend her funeral. The funeral parlor was very quiet. There were only a few people in it. Su Yunqian was wearing a beautiful wedding dress and lying in the coffin. She looked serene as if she was just sleeping. Holly was wearing a black suit. He knelt in front of the coffin. He held her hand with a diamond ring in his hand and said in a solemn and low voice, "Yunqian, whether you like it or not, from today onwards you are my wife. No matter if it's a blessing or a curse, illness or health, I will love and cherish you. Even death can't separate us." Watching him put the ring on Su Yunqian's finger, Xiaodong couldn't help but cry. She turned her head and couldn't bear to look. Bailey Han put his arm around her shoulder. After Holly put the ring on Su Yunqian's finger, he leaned over and kissed her lips gently. He murmured, "Yunqian, I love you." Heavy footsteps sounded. Paul's tall figure appeared at the door. He was wearing a black suit with a white chrysanthemum in his pocket. He looked very sad. He walked to Su Yunqian's coffin and slowly bowed. Holly suddenly jumped up and punched Paul's cheek. He roared, "Bastard, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you she wouldn't have died." Paul was caught off guard and was knocked to the ground by Holly's punch. He covered his cheek in embarrassment. Holly didn't stop and rushed up again. Bailey Han and Mika Kito looked on coldly and didn't intend to stop him. Paul didn't have time to get up and was kicked hard again. Holly vented all his anger on Paul. He grabbed his collar with one hand and kicked him up from the ground. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched him hard on the head. "No, stop." Paul hurriedly grabbed his wrist. "You're the one who killed Rian. Do you know that she came to me because she was pregnant?" Holly suddenly stopped. After a while, he grabbed his collar tightly with both hands and said fiercely, "What did you say? Say it again." "I said, because she was pregnant and you didn't want the child, she came to me because she wanted to give the child a happy family." Paul was anxious and scared. He blurted out everything. "I don't believe you. You must be lying." Holly punched him hard on the nose. Paul's nose was bruised and his face was swollen. He was bleeding profusely. "Whether I'm lying or not, you can go to the hospital and ask the doctor." "Holly, knowing that you killed your wife and child doesn't feel good, does it?" Paul grimaced in pain. He couldn't beat Holly in physical strength, so he used words to hurt him. "Shut up. I'm going to kill you." Holly kicked Paul to the ground and punched and kicked him. Beitangshin had seen enough. He reckoned that if they were to continue fighting, Paul would become a cripple. He waved his hand and Vermilion Bird strode to Holly's back. Taking advantage of Holly not paying attention, Vermilion Bird struck the back of Holly's head. Holly, who had already lost his reason due to anger, fainted on the ground. Mika Kito said calmly, "Take him back." "Yes." Suzuka lifted Holly with one hand and carried him to the parking lot of the funeral parlor. She stuffed him into the car. Xiaodong watched as Suzaku's figure disappeared into the distance. She then glanced at Paul, who was lying on the ground covered in blood. She sighed. "Brother Shin, let's send him to the hospital. Someone will take care of him later. He won't die. Don't worry." Beitangshin walked to the front of Su Yunqian's coffin and slowly bowed. He faintly said, "Next time learn what to do and what not to do." After he returned, Xiaodong and Bailey Han walked to the coffin and bowed. Bailey Han remained silent. Xiaodong pursed her lips and said, "Have a safe journey." Holly was dispirited. He had gone to the hospital where Su Yunqian had gone for a checkup. The doctor had said that she was indeed pregnant. During the operation she had changed her mind at the last minute. He remembered that she had once asked him, "Do you like children?" She had even said, "How about we have a child?" How had he answered her? He had said that he didn't really like children. He had said that their current situation was not good and that it was not suitable for them to have children. B****. He was really a B****. He had not suspected why she had suddenly mentioned children. Because of his answer, she must have mistakenly thought that he did not want to keep the child and wanted to create a good environment for the child. That was why she had abandoned him and followed Paul. He had actually killed the woman he loved the most and their child with his own hands. Holly screamed in the empty room. He punched the wall viciously with his fists. His hands were bleeding but he refused to stop. Every day he held Su Yunqian's urn in his arms and refused to let go. In just 3 days he had become like a homeless man. He muttered, "Baby, you said that if you wanted to go home I would send you home." Holly sold all his assets, bought a plane ticket and flew to China. Come and see. Xinwu 799. Chapter 306. City of the Su family. The Su family welcomed a special guest. He was a foreigner wearing a black suit. His hair and beard had not been trimmed for a long time. He looked a little down and out. His eyes were empty and his face was expressionless. He looked like a puppet. He was Holly. Su Bolin looked at Holly, who was sitting on the sofa opposite him. He was holding a black box in his arms like it was a treasure. He was holding it tightly and it looked very strange. Su Bolin looked at him inquisitively and said in English, "Sir, you said you are my daughter's husband, but my daughter has passed away." Holly acted as if he did not hear him. His eyes were blank as if he was lost in his memories. He said slowly, "Yun Qian and I met in England. I helped her do a lot of wrong things. After her reputation in City A was ruined, she could not continue living here, so she asked me to help her. We faked her death and she jumped into the sea to fake her death. I helped her create a fake identity and sent her to Korea for plastic surgery." When Su Bolin heard this, he shouted excitedly, "Wait, you said my daughter is not dead. Tell me, where is she now?" Holly did not answer him. Like a robot, he said mechanically, "We did a lot of wrong things again. Later the matter was exposed. I was disinherited by my uncle and was chased out of the house. My financial situation was very poor. She never complained and always accompanied me. She was pregnant. She thought I did not want this child, so in order to protect the child and to create a good environment for the child, she planned to break up with me and be with another man." His hollow eyes gradually filled with sorrow, and his tone was also filled with sorrow. "I thought she had betrayed me. I held a gun and wanted to threaten her to return to my side. I shot at that man and she stood in front of him. It was me. I killed my wife and child." Su Bolin finally calmed down from the pain of losing his daughter. Who knew that a strange man would come to his door and tell him that his daughter was not dead? His heart was lit with hope, thinking that he could see his daughter again. However, that man quickly shattered his hope. Su Bolin was angry and sad. His finger trembled as he pointed at Holly's nose. His lips trembled, but he did not say a word for a long time. Holly expressionlessly placed the black box on the table. He slowly leaned forward and knelt in front of Su Bolin with his arms on the ground and his head on the floor. "Father-in-law, I'm here today to apologize to you. The first thing I'm sorry about is me. I'm sorry. I killed your daughter and grandson." His forehead hit the floor heavily, and it was already red and swollen. "Yun Qian asked me to apologize to you. I'm sorry that I lied to you and mother and hurt your feelings." He knocked his forehead heavily on the ground again, and the floor was already stained with blood. "The third apology is from Yun Qian and me. We're sorry that we let you and mother-in-law down." His forehead finally hit the floor and he stayed there for a long time, unwilling to get up. Tears streamed down Su Bolin's face. He held his chest with one hand and covered his eyes with the other. Tears slid down his face and rolled onto his clothes. "Honey, what's going on? Are you okay?" Mrs. Su came back from outside and saw the unusual scene in the living room. Holly did not look up. He was still kneeling on the ground like a statue. Su Bolin's shoulders trembled, and his right hand was still covering his eyes. No one answered Mrs. Su's question. She was a bit uneasy. She walked up to Su Bolin and pushed his shoulder. "Honey, what's wrong?" Su Bolin could no longer control himself and finally burst into tears. Mrs. Su had never seen her husband lose his composure like this. She quickly pulled out a tissue and wiped his tears. She panicked and said, "Honey, what's going on? Say something. Do you want me to die from anxiety?" Su Bolin shook his head. He was so emotional that he could not say a complete sentence. Mrs. Su was anxious and worried. She was not in the mood to ask why a foreign man was kneeling in front of her husband, patting his back and comforting him softly. After a long time he finally calmed down. Su Bolin looked at Holly, who was still kneeling in front of him, and waved his hand sadly. You can go. I don't want to see you for the time being." Holly quietly turned to face Mrs. Su and kowtowed. Mrs. Su was shocked. She quickly went forward to help him up. "What are you doing? Get up." Su Bolin suddenly shouted, "Don't worry about him. Let him kowtow." Mrs. Su was so scared that she retracted her hand. She stood there not knowing what to do. Holly kowtowed 2 more times. When he stood up, his forehead was covered in blood. He looked at the small black box on the table, turned around and walked to the door. Mrs. Su called out to his back, "Sir, is the wound on your head okay?" Holly did not stop. As if he did not hear her question, he walked out of their sight step by step. "Honey, what's going on?" Mrs. Su was confused. Su Bolin shook his head. His voice was hoarse. "It's nothing. You can go upstairs first. I want to be alone." He slowly closed his eyes. He did not want to say anything more. Mrs. Su hesitated for a moment. Seeing that her husband seemed tired, she did not ask any more questions. She looked at him worriedly and walked upstairs. After hearing the footsteps disappear, Su Bolin slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was locked on the black box that Holly brought. He had already guessed what was inside. He reached out his trembling hand and took Su Yunqian's urn. He held it tightly in his arms. Murky tears poured out again. He stroked the urn with one hand as if he was stroking his daughter's hair. He choked with sobs. "Yunqian, my silly daughter. Why did you choose such a path?" Su Bolin could not control his emotions. He punched the back of the chair with his fist. Mrs. Su did not go far. She was eavesdropping at the corner of the stairs. She heard her husband's suppressed sobs. She quietly poked her head out and saw him holding the black box with tears streaming down his face. She did not understand what was going on. Why was her husband holding the box and calling her daughter's name? "Yunqian, how could you bear to let a white-haired person die before a black-haired person?" Su Bolin covered his face with one hand and held the urn tightly with the other. The confusion in Mrs. Su's heart was like a snowball, rolling bigger and bigger. Moreover, her husband's sadness infected her, and she couldn't help but tear up. She quietly went downstairs, walked behind him and called out, "Hubby!" Su Bolin trembled. His hands trembled and the urn almost fell. He hurriedly held it with both hands and raised his teary face to look at his wife. "Honey, what's inside?" Mrs. Su was confused when she saw her husband so worried about the black box. Su Bolin wiped the tears from his face and said in a displeased tone, "Nothing. Didn't I tell you to go upstairs? Why did you come down again?" "Honey, are you hiding something from me?" Mrs. Su walked in front of him. "Let me see what's inside." "Huilan, what's wrong with you today? Hurry up and go upstairs." The more Su Bolin tried to hide it, the more flustered he became. He held the urn even tighter. "You're acting strange today too. I'm your wife. What can't you tell me?" Mrs. Su stubbornly held the urn tightly with both hands. As the two argued, the urn fell to the ground with a bang, and the ashes inside spilled all over the floor. Mrs. Su was stunned. The ashes on the floor looked like... Just as a thought popped up in her mind before she could confirm it, the furious Su Bolin almost subconsciously raised his hand and slapped her across the face. This slap shocked both of them. You hit me," Mrs. Su covered her face and cried. Su Bolin loved his wife very much and had never hit her before. He panicked and wanted to go forward to check on her injuries, but she pushed him away. She angrily pointed at the floor and roared, "Su Bolin, you have to tell me what happened. Otherwise I'll divorce you." Su Bolin originally wanted to hide it from his wife and son so that they wouldn't be tortured again. However, his wife insisted on getting to the bottom of it. Seeing that he couldn't hide it anymore, he had to tell them the truth. Mrs. Su couldn't take the blow and fainted on the spot. Su Bolin hurriedly called the servants and rushed her to the hospital. Su Jin heard the news and rushed over from the company. He anxiously asked, "Dad, what happened? Why did Mom have a high blood pressure attack?" Su Bolin was already exhausted, so he spilled the beans. Su Jin staggered a few steps and sat down on the bench in the hospital corridor. His mind was in a mess and was about to explode. The father and son were silent for a long time. More than an hour later, Mrs. Su woke up. The first thing she wanted was to see her daughter's ashes. Su Bolin had already ordered the servants to clean up all the ashes in the living room into the urn. At this time, he also asked the servants to send the urn to the hospital. Mrs. Su hugged the urn and cried bitterly. She almost fainted several times. In the end, Su Jin couldn't stand it and asked the doctor to inject her with a tranquilizer. "Dad, how can I find that man?" Su Jin's face was livid. His eyes were full of hatred and his fists were clenched. He couldn't wait to find Holly and tear him apart. "I don't know." When Holly left, Su Bolin was still sad and didn't have time to ask him. The Su family thought that they would never see Holly again. Unexpectedly, the next morning as soon as they opened the door, they saw a blond man kneeling at the door. His head was buried deep and his movements were as humble as the mud. Su Jin didn't need to ask to guess who he was. He rushed in front of him and grabbed him by the collar. He dragged him up from the ground and punched him in the face. "You bastard, how dare you show up again? I'm going to kill you." Welfare Hongcha 866. Chapter 307. Su Jinan punched and kicked Holly. Holly didn't fight back at all. Like a puppet, he let Su Jinan drag him up, beat him up and kick him out. His hair was messy, his face was covered in blood, and his clothes were torn. Enough. Su Bolan finally couldn't stand it anymore and grabbed the furious Su Jinan. Dad, don't hold me back. Let me kill him. Su Jinan was like an angry lion, struggling with all his might. What can you do if you kill him? Can you save Yunqian's life? If you kill him, you'll have to go to jail. Su Bolan was not as strong as Su Jinan. Sweat came out of his forehead as he roared with all his might. I want him to pay for Yunqian's life. Su Jinan had lost his mind. He broke free from his father's hand and was about to go forward again. Mrs. Su rushed over and hugged Su Jinan from behind. She cried and said, Jinan, your father is right. We've already lost Yunqian. We can't lose you too. Don't hit him. Mom begs you. Su Jinan's body shook and his movements gradually stopped. Su Bolan glanced at Holly, who was lying on the ground motionless. He called a servant and sent him to the hospital. Holly's appearance was like a bomb that blew up the pain hidden deep in the Su family's heart. It took a long time for them to calm down. 2 days later, Holly's injuries were almost healed. He left the hospital without leaving a word. He returned to Rome. He didn't contact anyone. Holly went to the police station and admitted that he killed his wife. Since Su Yunqian's body had been cremated, there was no way to collect evidence. Holly didn't have any excuses and even refused to hire a lawyer. The judge easily sentenced him to 10 years in prison. In fact, Tomek already knew the moment Holly stepped into the police station. He didn't stop him, nor did he put any pressure on the police. He let them sentence him to 10 years in prison. On the observation deck of the castle, Tomek and Mika Kito sat in chairs and looked into the distance. Mika Kito pursed her lips and said, Godfather, have you ever regretted doing this? Tomek's expression was indifferent, but his eyes were bleak. Of course there is regret. I was too confident and thought that I could see through people's hearts. I was wrong. Su Yunqian's pregnancy is something I never expected. Actually, you don't have to blame yourself. If Paul hadn't concealed Su Yunqian's pregnancy... Tomek raised his hand. Shen, you don't have to say any more. I originally thought that Su Yunqian had no other feelings for Holly other than using her. That was why I asked Paul to get close to her on purpose to break them up. But I didn't expect that they really loved each other deeply. Tomek closed his eyes in pain. If Paul had told him the truth about Su Yunqian's pregnancy, perhaps he would have asked Paul to stop and even help them for the sake of the child. However, he didn't expect Paul to be selfish. He coveted Su Yunqian's beauty and wanted to trick her. Paul was partly responsible for Su Yunqian's death, so when Holly beat him up, Mika Kito didn't say anything to stop him. The two of them didn't speak again. After a long silence, Tomek slowly said, I hope Holly can pull himself together soon. Don't you plan to help him? 10 years was a very long time. Tomek sighed. That depends on him. If he doesn't want to come out and wants to be depressed for the rest of his life, no one can help him. During the first 3 days of his sentence, Holly didn't eat or drink. He completely isolated himself from the outside world and refused to be visited by anyone. Holly's indifferent attitude angered the prison bully. When the prison bully asked around, he found out that Holly used to be the young master of a mafia family. His mentality was immediately twisted and he planned to bully Holly until he bowed down to him. So, on the 4th day, the prison bully ordered his subordinates to beat Holly up. Holly didn't fight back, nor did he beg for mercy. He lay on the dirty floor barely breathing. In a daze, he seemed to see Su Yunqian waving at him. The prison guard whistled as he ran over. The prison bully kicked Holly's back and spat at his face. He taunted, What kind of young master are you? You're still lying in front of me like a dead dog. Useless trash, like you should have been thrown into the trash long ago. You guys, what are you doing? The prison bully ran over and pointed his stun baton at the prison bully and the others. The prison bully raised his hands and the others followed suit. Officer, we didn't do anything. You guys, if you cause any more trouble, I won't let you off. The prison bully scolded them fiercely. He called his colleagues over and carried Holly out of the cell. Holly's eyes were slightly open. The light on the dark ceiling was dazzling. He saw Su Yunqian getting closer and closer to him. He couldn't help but move closer to her. But every time he took a step forward, she would take a step back. No matter what, he couldn't touch her. He wanted to tell her that he loved her, that he missed her, that he couldn't leave her. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't open his mouth. She retreated further and further with a warm smile on her face. She whispered, Holly, no matter what happens, you have to live well. Together with my share, together with my share, together. Her frail figure gradually disappeared, but the words she said remained clearly in his mind. He slowly moved his fingers. In a daze, he saw people in white coats moving in front of him and heard their conversation. "Alright, it's okay. There's still a heartbeat. The prison bully and his gang are too arrogant. They should be suppressed. Otherwise, someone will die next time." After that, his eyelids became heavier and heavier. He couldn't hold on any longer and fainted. Holly was seriously injured this time. He was bedridden for a week. After his injuries healed, he seemed to have changed into a different person. Although he still didn't speak, he was no longer depressed. He was even more indifferent. His eyes were as cold as a lake, cold and emotionless. He ate seriously, exercised seriously, and studied seriously. After a week, he defeated the prison bully and his gang by himself and became the new prison bully. A month later, Holly wrote 3 letters and sent them to Tomac, Mikakito, and Xiaodong. In the letter to Tomac, he said that after his parents passed away, he respected his uncle as if he was his biological father. He said that he was deeply sorry for letting down his uncle's expectations of him. He said that he would turn over a new leaf and become a better person. After reading the letter, Tomac's eyes were filled with tears. He contacted the prison on the same day, hoping that they could help reduce Holly's sentence. In the letter to Mikakito there were only 2 short sentences. "Ashin, I used to treat you as a brother. Are you still willing to treat me as a brother?" Mikakito didn't reply to him. The letter to Xiaodong was the one Holly spent the most time on. He wrote a few sentences but felt unsatisfied. He tore it up and rewrote it several times before he could finish it. Xia, I hope that after all that has happened you won't mind me calling you that. The first time I saw you it was very cold. You were wearing a white cashmere coat and a woolen hat with 2 pom-poms hanging down. You had a bright smile like the sun shining into the castle. At that time I thought that I liked this girl with a clean smile and I wanted to protect her. Later I wanted too many things and I felt the pressure from Ashin. He was very outstanding and compared to him I was like a piece of trash. I felt that I couldn't raise my head in front of him, and I was getting less and less valued by my uncle. I hated this feeling. 2 years ago, I overheard a conversation between my uncle and Ashin. I knew that my uncle was very dissatisfied with me and wanted to let Ashin take care of the family. I was angry and decided to take back what was mine. Since then I have done many things to hurt Ashin. I knew that Ashin cared about you, so I didn't hesitate to use you to hurt him. I've long been blinded by my anger and desire to protect you. I've even forgotten the promise I made to protect you. Xia, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want to tell you that I really feel very guilty. If I had the chance to do it all over again I would never hurt you again. I promised Xiao Guai that I would go to the hospital to visit her. Now I have to go back on my word. Please tell her that I love her. I have always wanted to have a daughter as cute as her. Also, I want to apologize to you on behalf of Yun Qian. I'm sorry. Holly, thank you. Xiaodong sobbed after reading the letter. Her tears had already soaked the letter. Bailey Han held her tightly in his arms. If you want to see him, we can go visit him. 2 days later, their request for a visit was answered. Holly was willing to see them. They sat across from each other through the glass, each holding a walkie-talkie in their hands. Holly had lost a lot of weight. He looked at Xiaodong with a sincere smile on his lips. Xia, I didn't expect that you would be willing to see me. Xiaodong felt a lump in her throat. She smiled. Holly, Xiao Guai asked me to tell you that Ashin is her number 1 godfather. You are her number 2 godfather. She also said that if you don't want to, she will ignore you. Holly's eyes sparkled. He smiled and said, I'm willing. Although it's only number 2, I'm willing. Xiaodong stared into his eyes and said slowly, Holly, the harm you have caused to our family is a foregone conclusion. I will not forgive you. Holly's expression darkened. He laughed self-deprecatingly. I know. I'm really sorry. So, Xiaodong continued, I want to punish you. I want you to be my older brother for the rest of your life. You want to protect me and love me. Holly was slightly stunned. His eyes quickly filled with surprise. He almost jumped up and said, I accept the punishment. Xiaodong saw that he was as surprised as a child and smiled. Holly, Ashin asked me to tell you something. Holly looked at her nervously. What is it? A powerful novel. Hongcha 866. Chapter 308. Xiaodong said slowly, Brother Shin said that he'll only forgive you this once. Holly was stunned. What does that mean? Xiaodong laughed and scolded, Idiot, it means that he forgives you but only this once. If there's a next time he'll chop you to death with a knife. Holly's eyes shone brighter and brighter. He trembled and turned his head to avoid Xiaodong's gaze. Something shiny rolled from his eyes to the ground. Xiaodong pretended not to see it and smiled brightly. Holly, Godfather also asked me to pass a message to you. Perform well and strive for a reduction in your sentence. Come out soon. Our whole family is waiting for you. Holly rubbed his nose and said in a hoarse voice, I will, Xia. Help me take care of Uncle. Okay. Holly performed very well in prison. With Tomac's help, his sentence was reduced 3 times in a row and his sentence was shortened from 10 years to 5 years. During his time in prison he had been working hard to improve himself. Just as Tomac said, he had been reborn. After he was released from prison, Mika Quito handed over the management of the Dark Knight family to him. Holly became the greatest leader of the Italian mafia after Tomac. His only regret was that he was never married. These were all stories for later, so let's not talk about them for now. Before they knew it, it was already February. According to China's tradition, the Spring Festival was coming. Xiao Guai had recovered and Bailey Han decided to take his wife and child back to China to reunite with his family. Tomac had already handed over the management of the Dark Knight family to Mika Quito. Mika Quito had to live in Rome for a while. Bailey Han's family said goodbye to Tomac and Mika Quito and took a private jet back to a city. On the day they returned it was very cold. Xiaodong and Xiao Guai had stayed in the warm Rome for too long. When they got off the plane they were still a little uncomfortable and their cheeks were red from the cold. Bailey Han held Xiao Guai tightly in his arms, while Xiaodong held Hai. The family of 4 got into the Rolls-Royce that came to welcome them. The Rolls-Royce drove into Bailey's mansion. The butler and the servants stood in 2 rows at the gate and bowed respectfully. Welcome home, young master and madam. Hearing the uniform greeting, Old Madam, by Jinxiu, and the others had already rushed to the door of the living room. Old Madam's eyes were red and she said excitedly, It's good that you're back, it's good that you're back. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao stood beside Old Madam with their hands behind their backs like adults. They suppressed their joy and let the adults have the right to speak first. Grandma Mom, Bailey Han put Xiao Guai on the ground and walked forward to hug Old Madam. Grandma, we're back. Okay, Old Madam choked with sobs. Xia, come in. Don't catch a cold. Bai Jinxiu returned to China with her 2 little grandsons after taking care of Xiaodong in Rome. During her time in Rome, the relationship between her mother-in-law and daughter-in-law was very harmonious. She reached out and hugged Hai in Xiaodong's arms. Let me see. Little Hai has grown so big. Great-grandma, don't be sad. We're all back. You should be happy. Xiao Guai raised her pink little face and tugged at Old Madam's fingers. Yes, Giga is right. We should be happy. Old Madam smiled and wiped the corners of her eyes. She bent down and touched Xiao Guai's soft hair and smiled kindly. We haven't seen each other for more than half a year. Our Xiao Guai has grown prettier. Xiao Guai smiled brightly. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao ran to her side and grabbed her little hands. Xiao Yi raised her little face and said, Great-grandma, Gigai's hands are so cold. Let's take her to the fireplace to warm her up. Okay, go quickly. Don't freeze. Old Madam knew that the 3 little guys must have a lot to talk about, so she smiled and waved her hand. The 3 little guys were sitting on the thick carpet in front of the fireplace, chatting happily and laughing from time to time. The 4 adults were sitting on the sofa not far behind them, talking about the recent events at home. The atmosphere was warm and harmonious. Big brother, sister-in-law, you're finally back. Boo-hoo. Knowing that Bailey Han and the others were back, Bailey Jing got off work early. As soon as she stepped into the living room, she ran to Bailey Han to complain. Xiao Jing, you're already a big girl. Why are you still so unruly? Bailey Han grabbed Bailey Jing's collar and pulled her off him, moving her to the sofa next to him. Bailey Jing's beautiful face scrunched up and she complained tearfully, Half a year. It's been more than half a year. Big brother, if you didn't come back, I would have been driven to death by those old men on the board of directors. Bailey Han raised his eyebrows in amusement. Didn't you do well? I heard from Lu Zihao that you even negotiated a joint venture last month. Bailey Jing raised her finger and complained one by one, What's the use of just negotiating a joint venture? Those old men on the board of directors always use the excuse that I'm too inexperienced and too young to impeach me and kick me out. Also, they criticize me for coming to work too late and leaving too early. Hey, I'm only 10 minutes late and left 5 minutes early. Is there a need to criticize me like this? No matter what, I'm still the acting CEO. Also they say that my clothes are too unconventional and not suitable for the company's atmosphere. Look, how am I unconventional? Do they have to force me to dress like a 50-year-old old woman? She stood up and struck a pose for Bailey Han and Xiaodong to see. Only then did Xiaodong notice that Bailey Jing was wearing a red low-cut woolen sweater, a knee-length black leather skirt, and a pair of 10-centimeter high leather boots. With her wavy hair, she looked very charming and charming. Bailey Han obviously noticed it too and his face darkened. You're not allowed to wear clothes with such a low neckline. Bailey Jing snorted. But everyone says that I look very beautiful dressed like this. Also, I don't have a boss who specifically threw a pen on the ground and asked me to pick it up. Why can't I wear this? Xiaodong couldn't help but laugh. A boss who threw a pen on the ground and asked his sexy female subordinate to pick it up. She wondered if Bailey Han had done something like this before. She turned to look at Bailey Han and teased, "Hubby, have you ever thrown a pen on the ground and asked your sexy female secretary to pick it up?" Bailey Han's mouth twitched. "Honey, how could I do such a vulgar thing?" "Yes." Xiaodong deliberately dragged out the last word. Her tone sounded like she was questioning his words. Bailey Han's face darkened. "Honey, are you doubting me?" Xiaodong held back her laughter. "I heard that many CEOs like to flirt with their female subordinates, so I was just casually asking. I really didn't mean to doubt you." "You're getting more and more ridiculous. What nonsense is in your head?" Bailey Han reached out and knocked her forehead in annoyance. "Hey, isn't that how it's written on TV and in novels? Also, it's written in the newspapers." Xiaodong held her forehead and winked at Bailey Jing. Bailey Jing understood and returned her a playful smile. She picked up her handbag and was ready to slip away. She had already slipped to the staircase and thought she was in a safe zone. Unexpectedly, Bailey Han suddenly said in a deep voice, "Stop right there." Bailey Jing's face was bitter. She turned her head stiffly and laughed dryly. She pointed to the stairs. "Big brother, I won't disturb you flirting with sister-in-law. I'll go upstairs first." Bailey Han's mouth twitched. "Come here." "Okay." Bailey Jing knew that her big brother was about to start giving her a political and ideological lesson. She moved in front of him reluctantly. "Don't think that I don't know that your sister-in-law is covering for you." Bailey Han snorted with a sour expression. He pointed to the sofa opposite him. "Sit down." Bailey Jing sat down with a bitter face. "Big brother, you just came back and you're already lecturing me. Do you have to be so cruel?" Bailey Han said indifferently, "Who asked you to be so immature? As the CEO, your dressing will affect the company's image and your image in the hearts of the employees. Do you want to become the sexual fantasy of all the male employees?" Xiaodong and Bailey Jing almost fell to the ground. How could he say those words with such a calm tone and expression? "What? You have nothing to say?" Bailey Jing was speechless. "Big brother, you've already scared us." Xiaodong coughed and spoke up for Bailey Jing. "Hubby, it's actually not as exaggerated as you say. You can't destroy everyone's personality just because it's the workplace. I think that Jing's dressing is quite beautiful. She's already very conscious of her limits. Although the woolen sweater was a low-cut design, it didn't expose any parts of her body that shouldn't be exposed. It only highlighted her exquisite collarbone. The leather skirt was also knee-length, so the matter wasn't as serious as Bailey Han said. Bailey Han stared at Xiaodong with a half-smile. "So, you think this is normal?" "Yes." Xiaodong nodded fearlessly. "Very good, my dear wife. You've been stripped of your right to wear clothes of this standard." Bailey Han smiled and patted her head, like a big bad wolf that had succeeded in his evil plan. Xiaodong wanted to cry but had no tears. What was this? Why did she suddenly get the attention of the gunfire? Bailey Jing rushed over and hugged Xiaodong. "Sister-in-law, I've implicated you." Xiaodong patted her back and suddenly became smart. "It's okay. Actually, your big brother has been planning this for a long time. He just suddenly found an excuse today." Bailey Jing wiped her eyes and pretended to cry. "Sister-in-law, I suddenly feel that we're living under the oppression of an old-fashioned old man. It's so stressful and so pitiful." Xiaodong sighed seriously. "Xiaojing, you finally realized this problem. I'm very relieved because I've been oppressed for a long time. You two don't treat me as if I'm dead." Bailey Han rubbed his throbbing temples. Speaking of being oppressed, why did he feel that he was the one being oppressed? Xiaodong and Bailey Jing covered their mouths and snickered. They had already been stripped of their right to wear low-cut clothes. Weren't they allowed to complain a little? The next day, Bailey Han and his wife took the 4 children to visit their aunt and uncle. Their aunt and uncle were very happy. The whole family ate and chatted happily. They were even more excited than when they were celebrating the new year. Their aunt warmly urged them to stay until they finished dinner. On the way home, Xiaodong was sitting in the front passenger seat with Hai in her arms. She suddenly received a strange text message. Beauty novel Song Shu 566. Chapter 309. Xiaodong heard her phone ring. She opened it and saw a strange text message. I know the whole truth. She frowned and replied, Who are you? After a few seconds the other party replied, Who I am is not important. What's important is that I know your secret. Xiaodong thought for a moment and typed a line of words on her phone. What are you trying to say? Beep beep. Another text message came in. Xiao Bao is not your son. Xiaodong's fingers suddenly tightened. Her body froze and her expression turned ugly. Because they were driving at night, Bailey Han paid more attention to safety. He focused all his attention on the road ahead and asked casually, Who sent the message? A hint of panic flashed across Xiaodong's eyes. She said, It's Siki. Siki heard that I was back and asked me to meet up. Yeah, you haven't seen each other in a long time. You must have a lot to talk about. Bailey Han smiled. Yeah, I don't know how she's doing now. I'm looking forward to meeting her too. Xiaodong replied to the text message as she spoke. Please don't talk nonsense. Xiao Bao is my son. This time the other party replied after about 10 minutes. Xiao Bao is your adopted child. Xiaodong nervously hugged Hai tightly. She was worried that Bailey Han would find out that something was wrong, so she turned off her phone and ignored the mysterious stranger. However, the other party's words were like a stone thrown into the calm lake of her heart, causing ripples. Along the way Xiaodong was restless. She had a bad feeling that her life, which had finally calmed down, was about to be disrupted again. Honey, we're home. Bailey Han opened the car door and took his daughter from her arms. Little Wingzi and his siblings had already jumped out of the back of the car and ran into the villa, chasing after each other. What's wrong? You seem to have something on your mind. Bailey Han glanced at Xiaodong. She lowered her head and looked at the road under her feet seriously. She was so quiet that it was abnormal. No, I was just thinking about where I should meet Siki since it's so cold now. Xiaodong looked thoughtful. Hubby, where do you think we should go? Bailey Han smiled. How about going to the hot springs? Just you and Yi Siki. She had always placed all her focus on the children and rarely had the chance to relax or talk to her friends. He supported her to have her own social circle so that she would not be bored. She smiled and nodded. Sounds good. You're smart. Bailey Han laughed. Go in quickly. It's cold outside. He moved his arm in her direction and she naturally took his arm. At night, while Bailey Han was taking a shower, Xiaodong turned on her phone. There were no unread messages. She hesitated for a while and deleted all the messages sent by the mysterious stranger. For the next 2 days she did not receive any more messages from that person. She comforted herself by thinking that maybe it was just a prank. In the cold winter it was very comfortable to soak in the hot springs. Xiaodong and Yi Siki decided to go to the famous hot springs resort in the suburbs. Before leaving, Xiaodong put on a thick coat and held 2 scarves in her hands. Standing in front of the mirror, she did not know which one to wear. Bailey Han said gently with a smile, Wear the red one. It matches the color of your coat. It's very beautiful. Xiaodong looked at Bailey Han's figure in the mirror. He crossed his arms and leaned leisurely against the door. There was a gentle smile on his handsome face. The corners of her lips curled up. As she tied the scarf she said, Are you really not coming with us? He approached her and hugged her gently from behind. He bit her earlobe and said softly, It's rare for you and Yi Siki to meet. Wouldn't I spoil your mood if I went? If you like, we can go to the hot springs together next time and spend a few days comfortably. Okay. She turned around and put her arms around his neck. She kissed him on the lips. Hubby, you should go to the company today. Xiao Jing is getting calluses on my ears. From the first day Bailey Han returned to China, Bailey Jing wanted to return the Xinghao group to him as soon as possible. However, he refused to take over and continued to live a leisurely life with his wife and children every day. Bailey Jing was so jealous that her eyes turned red. She took the opportunity to whisper in Xiaodong's ear, hoping that she would help her persuade her brother. You and Xiao Jing are so close that it almost makes me jealous. I'm your husband. Why don't you feel sorry for me? Bailey Han bit her lips as if punishing her. Xiaodong hugged him tightly. You're my husband. Of course I feel sorry for you. However, the Shenghao group is your hard work after all. You can't just ignore it, right? Silly, who said I'm ignoring it? Do you think Xiao Jing can reach an agreement with the European side with her fancy moves? Your husband is strategizing and winning from 1,000 miles away. Xiaodong's eyes widened in surprise. Hubby, you're so amazing. Why haven't I seen you work before? Bailey Han leaned against her neck and chuckled. Because you sleep a lot every day. I just make use of the time you sleep. Why did this sentence sound so familiar? Xiaodong blinked and suddenly remembered that a great celebrity once said, "There's no such thing as a genius. I just use the time other people spend drinking coffee on work." Hubby, you've worked hard to support our family, Xiaodong said seriously. Bailey Han rubbed her hair. Since you know I've worked so hard, you have to make it up to me. When you come back tonight, I'm going to eat meat. Hubby, don't suddenly change the topic. Moreover, it suddenly jumped to a restricted topic. Xiaodong puffed up her cheeks and her eyes were wet. She looked pitiful. Bailey Han pinched her cheek. Okay, I promise you. I'll go to the company early so that you can report to Xiao Jing. Are you satisfied? Yes, yes, she nodded and inadvertently glanced at the clock. She exclaimed, "Oh no, it's getting late. I'm going to be late." Don't worry. Yisiki won't mind. No, I can't. We agreed to meet at the cafe, and then we'll go to the resort together in my car. She'll get anxious if we wait too long. Xiaodong hurriedly picked up his handbag and stuffed his phone, wallet, and other belongings into it. I'll ask Old Chin to drive you there. Before you finish, call Old Chin in advance and ask him to pick you up. Bailey Han grabbed her arm and stopped her from leaving in a hurry. He held her hand and went downstairs. Then he called the chauffeur and gave him a few instructions. Hubby, I'm leaving. Okay, have fun. Call me if anything happens. Bailey Han helped her adjust her scarf and then opened the car door for her. Go in quickly. It's too cold outside. Xiaodong rolled down the window and waved at Bailey Han. Bailey Han casually put his hands in his trouser pockets. He watched the car drive out of the gate of the manor before he turned around and went back. The car stopped outside the cafe. Xiaodong asked Old Chin to wait in the car. She walked into the cafe to look for Yisiki. When she saw Yisiki, she was shocked. Yezi, is this still you? Yisiki stood up and looked at her with a smile. Of course it's me. Come here and let me give you a hug. Xiaodong approached her and gave her a bear hug. She couldn't help but touch her short hair. Why did you cut your hair? You even put on makeup and wore such beautiful clothes. I almost couldn't recognize you. Yisiki smiled and said, only you can become prettier, but I can't. Xiaodong looked her up and down. Not only did you become prettier, but you also lost a lot of weight. Did you lose weight? The smile on Yisiki's face faded and there was an imperceptible sadness between her brows. Let's not talk about it. Let's hurry up and go. We can talk about it when we soak in the hot spring. That's true. Anyway, we have a whole day today. Xiaodong smiled and held her hand. Old Chin drove them to the hot spring resort in the suburbs. Bailey Han had already booked a room for them. The waiter led them to change their clothes and they entered a semi-enclosed bathroom. The pool was steaming hot and foggy. There were some grotesquely shaped rockery beside the pool. A screen with classic China landscape paintings surrounded the pool. Looking past the screen, they could see lush trees and even hear the chirping of birds. The place was filled with the smell of nature. Xiaodong and Yisiki soaked in the hot spring. Their pores were relaxed and they sighed in comfort. Xiaodong glanced at Yisiki, who was leaning against the wall of the pool. Yezi, how have you been for the past 6 months? Yisiki closed her eyes and said calmly, we might have to get a divorce. Xiaodong's heart thumped. She stared at her face in disbelief. How did this happen? Is there really no turning back? Yisiki slowly opened her eyes and smiled faintly. There was an indescribable fatigue in her smile. I'm already tired. Maybe it's better for both of us to break up. Xiaodong moved closer to her. After hesitating for a long time, she asked, Yezi, do you still love him? So what if I do? Love can't withstand so much hurt. Yisiki's eyes were covered with a layer of mist. Xia, you don't know how tired I am. I'm really tired. It's okay, it's okay. Xiaodong hugged her. No matter what decision you make, I'll always support you. Don't forget you still have me. Yisiki wiped the corners of her eyes. After a moment, she pushed Xiaodong away. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. We've almost seen each other naked, yet we're still hugging each other. Feels so weird. Xiaodong crossed her arms and put on a defensive expression. Don't you have any ideas about me? I'm already taken. Isiki rolled her eyes. Don't be so disgusting. The two of them teased each other for a while. Isiki glanced at her and said, You've cleared up all the misunderstandings. Bailey Han's family has already accepted you. It's time for the best. Xiaodong leaned back against the smooth wall of the pool. She looked a little absent-minded. I'm a little worried. I hope they don't find out about that. Welfare Hongcha 866. Chapter 310. Isiki looked puzzled. What else is there? Xiaodong pinched her forehead. Xiao Bao's background. Isiki's expression froze. After a while she said, There hasn't been any problems in the past 5 years, so there shouldn't be any problems in the future. Her tone was full of uncertainty. Xiaodong looked at the woods beyond the screen. A few days ago, a mysterious person sent me a text. He said that he knew that Xiao Bao was my adopted child. I comforted myself by telling myself that it was just a prank, but... She suddenly turned her head and looked at Isiki. She said slowly, Besides the director of the orphanage, only you and Brother Shin know about this. Obviously you wouldn't play such a prank on me. Isiki frowned. Her voice was hoarse. What else did the mysterious person say? Xiaodong shook her head. After I switched off my phone he stopped harassing me. I don't know who he is or what he wants to do, but I can't help but feel uneasy. We already have a peaceful life, so I don't want it to be disturbed by that incident. Isiki thought for a moment. Have you ever thought of telling Bailey Han and his family the truth? I have, but I have my concerns. Firstly, I'm worried that I'll hurt Xiao Bao's feelings. Secondly, I'm worried that Bailey's family won't dote on Xiao Bao anymore after they find out the truth. Xiaodong rubbed her temples with her slender fingers. No matter how I think about it, Xiao Bao will be the one who will be hurt the most. This is the outcome I don't want to see. Then what do you plan to do? I'll take it one step at a time. Let's see what the mysterious person wants to do first. He suddenly sent a few text messages and then disappeared. Perhaps he's playing hard to get and wants to force me into a corner. I have a feeling that he will contact me again. You can tell Bailey Han the truth and face this matter together with him. Isiki sank into the bathtub. The warm water flowed over her neck and the mist seemed to fill her eyes. Her eyes were wet. Xia, based on my experience it's best to be honest with each other. Don't hide anything. Otherwise, when there's a crisis of trust between the two of you, there will be cracks in your relationship. Xiaodong followed her example and sank into the bathtub. Okay, I'll think about how I should tell him. She didn't know how to tell Bailey Han that Xiao Bao wasn't his son. The two of them soaked for a long time. When they came out of the bathtub it was already afternoon. They changed their clothes, had lunch and went to the KTV room to karaoke. The two of them hugged each other shoulder to shoulder as the wind howled. They laughed and played to their heart's content until their voices became hoarse. Only then did they collapse on the sofa and burst out laughing, venting all the pressure and worries that had accumulated in their hearts. The two of them walked out of the KTV room with their arms around each other's shoulders. They couldn't contain their excitement as they danced around, attracting a lot of attention. Among them, there was a pair of gays who had their arms around each other's shoulders. They walked towards them about 10 meters away and looked at them passionately as if they had seen their own kind. Xiaodong poked Isiki with her finger and laughed sinisterly. Yezi, look at that pair. They're looking at us with such passionate eyes. They must think that we're a couple too. Isiki turned to glance at them and commented in a serious tone, the top one is tall and the bottom one is delicate and charming. They're a good match. Xiaodong waved at the two of them. Hey, I wish you both happiness. The bottom was so touched that tears welled up in his eyes. He waved back. I wish you both happiness too. Isiki grinned from ear to ear. Thank you. The two of them nodded at each other and walked past each other. The onlookers shook their heads. What a pity. Such a beautiful woman and such a handsome man. How could they be gay? After walking some distance, the two of them hid in the corridor and laughed. Xiaodong's eyes were filled with tears. I haven't been so happy in a long time. I suddenly remembered that when we were in university, we also teased Lin Shihao like this. She stopped talking abruptly. Yezi, I'm sorry, it's okay. Isiki patted her on the shoulder and grinned. I'm not a porcelain doll that will break at the slightest touch. Now that you mention it, I remember. At that time Lin Shihao and I were not in a relationship yet. He bought breakfast for me every day and waited for me to go to class with him. The other girls in the hostel said that Lin Shihao had a crush on me. You came up with this idea saying that you wanted to provoke him into confessing to me. What happened in the end? Yi Siki stared at Xia Dong with a smirk. Xia Dong touched her nose gloomily. In the end, Lin Shihao said, "Stop fooling around. I know that there's nothing wrong with your sexual orientation. Speaking of which, it's all your fault for being too stiff." Xia Dong shamelessly pushed all the blame to her. How is my acting bad? You're the one who watched too many dramas and came up with some sour lines that ruined the whole show, okay? It's all your fault. It's all your fault. The two of them disappeared into the corridor, leaving behind the sound of arguing and laughter. Everyone should have a very important friend in their life. That way they wouldn't feel lonely when they were hurt and lost. It was past 5 in the afternoon. The sky was very gloomy. It seemed like it was going to snow again. Xia Dong and Yi Siki were wrapped up tightly. When they came out of the resort, Old Chin had already parked the car at the gate. Xia Dong asked Old Chin to send Yi Siki home first. The two of them hugged and said goodbye. Yi Siki was carrying the gift that Xia Dong brought back from Rome. He smiled and waved his hand. Be careful on the road. Say hello to Bailey Han and the little guys for me. By the way, bring Hai Hai out next time. I haven't seen her yet. Xia Dong lowered half the window and smiled. Got it. Hurry up upstairs. Your Nyonyo must be waiting anxiously. Xia Dong walked into the living room and saw Bailey Han sitting by the fireplace with Xiao Guai in his arms. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao were sitting around them. The three children were listening attentively to Bailey Han's story. The corners of Bailey Han's lips curled up slightly, and his deep and magnetic voice rang out in the spacious living room. Xia Dong approached them and could tell that he was telling the story of the treasured lotus lamp. His voice was deep and slow, and it was especially infectious. No wonder the children were so engrossed in it. Xia Dong didn't want to disturb their warm atmosphere, so she quietly walked to their side and sat on the sofa opposite Bailey Han. Bailey Han looked up at her, and the smile on his lips deepened. He stroked Xiao Guai's hair and said, "Today's story ends here. If you want to know what will happen in the future, listen to the next episode." Daddy, continue. I want to hear more. Daddy, you're really keeping me in suspense. I'm just getting to the best part. The three little guys pouted their little faces. Bailey Han ignored their protests and raised his eyebrows with a smile. It's almost time for dinner. Let's continue tomorrow. All right then. The little ones all had helpless expressions on their faces. Xia Dong couldn't help laughing. She joked, "Honey, do you know what I hated the most when I read martial arts novels?" Under the soft light, Bailey Han's handsome face appeared even more charming. There was a smile on his face as he said, "To know what will happen in the future, please listen to the next round." That's right. This sentence always pops up at the most exciting times. She shrugged and looked helpless. It's just too much of a scam. Xiao Bao shouted, "This time it's not a scam. It's a scam for our son." He glanced at his dear father with resentment. The meaning in his eyes was self-evident. Bailey Yun pursed his thin lips and raised his eyebrows. He looked like he was saying, "Yes, I'm scamming you. What can you do about it?" Xiao Yi silently turned her head. "Daddy, I suspect that we're not your biological children." Xiao Guai blinked her big eyes. "Mommy, aren't we Daddy's biological children?" Xia Dong's heart suddenly tightened. She clenched her fists and her mind went blank for a moment. By the time she reacted, Xiao Bao was already in front of her and staring at her in confusion. "Mom, what's wrong? Why are you in a daze?" "Ah." Xia Dong glanced around and saw that everyone was looking at her with concern, especially Bailey Han. His dark eyes were full of concern. She quickly waved her hand and smiled. "It's nothing. Maybe I've been in the hot spring for too long. My mind isn't very clear. What did you say just now?" Xiao Bao touched her head and sighed. "Mom, I suspect that you have Alzheimer's disease. You should go to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow." Xia Dong deliberately put on a stern face. She pinched Xiao Bao's pink cheeks with both hands and kneaded them like dough. "Little rascal, how dare you laugh at me?" Xiao Bao's pink face was distorted by the kneading. She cried out with tears in her eyes, "Ah, Dad, save me. Mom is domestic violence. Son, I can't help you." Bailey Han coughed and stood firmly on his wife's side. He gave his son a look that said, "Good luck to you." Xiao Yi reached out and covered Xiao Guai's round eyes. She whispered, "It's so violent. It's not suitable for minors to watch." Xiao Guai cried out in surprise. "Hey brother E, you're underage too. You should cover your eyes too. Hey you guys. Do you still have any humanity left in you? How could you just stand by and watch as mom tragically kills me? Xiaoyi said seriously. You're wrong. How could we just stand by and watch as mommy tortures you? We've already closed our eyes. Xiao Bao blinked his big watery eyes pitifully. Oh, I can't live like this anymore. I want to run away from home. All right. I'm just teasing you. Xia Dong held his little face and said with a smile, Come, let mommy give you a kiss. You'll get better soon. No. Xiao Bao turned his head away arrogantly and raised his little chin. Don't be angry, my good son. Xia Dong rubbed his soft hair. Her eyes were filled with warmth and love, but there was also a trace of undetectable sadness. This was the child she had raised for 5 years. Although he was not her biological child, she treated him like one. If it were not for that text message, she would have almost forgotten that Xiao Bao was a child she adopted from an orphanage. Attention Hongcha 866. Chapter 311. In the bedroom, the soft light shone down on Xia Dong's body, outlining a warm curve. She sat sideways at the head of the bed with her head slightly lowered. She was holding something in her hand and flipping it slowly. There was a peaceful smile on her face. He couldn't bear to disturb the beautiful peace. Xia Dong felt the mattress beside her sink. Bailey Han's tall and straight body was very close to her, and the faint scent of lemon-scented shower gel wafted into her nose. Honey, what are you looking at? He hugged her from the side and she leaned against his chest. Do you want to see pictures of Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai when they were young? She adjusted her position and placed the album on his lap. Bailey Han's gaze fell on the album. The album was very beautifully made, and it was the first time he had seen the pictures inside. There were pictures of the children at various ages. There was a picture of them when they were 6 months old. The 2 pink Xiao Bao babies were placed in a wooden basin, and their 2 pairs of small hands were tightly grasping the sides of the basin. Their 2 pairs of beautiful big eyes were staring in front of them with a surprised expression. Xia Dong pointed at the picture and laughed. Brother Shin took this picture for them. At that time, I took the rattle and shook it in front of them to attract their attention. There was a picture of Xiao Guai when they were 1 year old. She was wearing a beautiful little dress and cute cat ears on her head. Xiao Bao was wearing a small short-sleeved shirt and shorts, and he was wearing silly brown bear ears on his head. The 2 babies stood facing each other. Xiao Bao was holding a bunch of wild grass flowers in his hand, and he handed it to Xiao Guai. Xiao Guai tilted her head and looked at him with a thoughtful expression, as if she didn't understand why her brother would give her flowers. Xia Dong leaned into Bailey Han's arms and laughed. Honey, look at them. Aren't they very cute? Bailey Han stroked her hair and his eyes were filled with love. It seems that I have missed a lot of good times. She looked up at him. It's okay. I have already recorded all the good times for you. She kissed his sharp chin and jumped down from his arms. Wait for me, I'll get something for you. She wore slippers and hopped into the storage room. Her back was full of energy like a cheerful little rabbit. Bailey Han raised his eyebrows in amusement and continued to admire the album. The more he looked at the album, the more Mika Kito appeared. Almost half of the photos were taken with him, Xia Dong and the children. His gaze deepened. Through the photos he saw the warmth of Mika Kito and Xia Dong. There was something called jealousy brewing in his heart. Hubby, Xia Dong suddenly ran to his side and hugged his neck from behind. She leaned against his back and held something in her hand in front of him. It was a CD. This is the video that Brother Shin took for us every year for our children's birthdays. I'll play it for you. She smiled. He pursed his lips and slowly said, Okay. Xia Dong ran to the TV with the CD and put it on the DVD player. Soon, the video appeared on the LCD wall-mounted TV. There were a total of 4 birthdays and a total of 1.5 hours of editing. It was like a romantic fairy tale. There were cute princesses and princes, beautiful queens and handsome knights. It was a pity that there was no handsome king. Seeing how close Mika Kito and Xia Dong were, the smile in Bailey Han's eyes faded and the corners of his lips tightened. Xia Dong looked back at the past few years with the video and felt depressed. She didn't know if Xiao Bao would still be willing to be her son after knowing the truth. Bailey Han was so jealous that he didn't notice Xia Dong's abnormal mood. He suddenly reached for the remote control and turned off the TV. He pulled her into his arms, lifted her chin and kissed her lips. His kiss was fierce and hurried. It was full of aggressiveness as if he wanted to devour her. He was rarely so rough with her. She couldn't breathe properly and clutched the bathrobe in front of his chest tightly. Hubby, she murmured uneasily and panted softly. I'm jealous. His voice was low and hoarse. His lips lingered by her ear and he bit her sensitive earlobe with a little force. She couldn't help but cry out in pain. He stroked her back with both hands and whispered, "In the past 5 years your relationship with Mikakito was so good that it made me jealous?" He bluntly complained about his dissatisfaction. He quickly took off the bathrobe on her and suddenly pressed her under his body. His eyes were terrifyingly dark. She shrank her shoulders. She didn't expect him to suddenly mention Mikakito. She bit her lips in grievance and her eyes were hazy with tears. Her voice was mixed with a trace of gentleness. "I only treated him as an older brother. You said that you would understand. I can't understand it now." Bailey Han forcefully kissed her lips and his hands were on fire all over her body. If it was said that before he saw these photos and videos he was 100% jealous of Beidang Xin, then now his jealousy towards him had reached 200%. He hated that he had lost his memory for 5 years and that she had been able to leave him for 5 years. As a result, Mikakito had played an important role in her and their child's lives. He hated that he had been absent from their lives for 5 years. When she needed support and help the most, he couldn't be by her side. Xia Dong hugged this irritable man who seemed to be in puberty. She tried to use her gentleness to defuse his sudden anger. She hooked her arms around his neck and raised her head. Her soft lips kissed his chin and then wandered around his face, the corner of his lips, the high bridge of his nose, his full forehead and finally the tip of his cold ear. She stuck out the tip of her tongue and gently licked it. His body suddenly trembled. His clear black and white eyes stared into her eyes. The corners of her eyes were full of smiles. She said softly, "Hubby, no matter what happened in the past, the one who is by my side now is you. In the future, only you will be by my side." His eyes were instantly overflowing with color. Under the soft light, his face was unbelievably beautiful. His brows were slightly furrowed and the veins on his forehead popped out. His face was flushed and it seemed that he had been holding back for a long time. His voice had a unique magnetism. "In the future, only me." His tone was firm and domineering. There was no room for discussion. She nodded. "Only you. Wifey, do you still remember what I said today?" His lips curled into a devilish smile. He bent down beside her ear and his hot breath tickled her ear. His hand gently kneaded her soft pink ear. Her cheeks were flushed red. That scorching breath enveloped her and she almost suffocated. Her hands and feet were already unable to exert any strength. Following his movements, her delicate voice died down. "You don't remember? I think, it wasn't anything good?" He suddenly held her butt and slapped it hard. There was a mischievous smile in his voice. "You're so naughty. You actually forgot what I said. It hurts." She furrowed her brows and bit her lips. She looked like she was about to cry and it made his heart skip a beat. He turned her over and his voice was filled with annoyance. "Let me see." 5 clear fingerprints were left on her fair and tender skin. Her skin was delicate to begin with. Even if he held her arm tightly, it would leave a mark, not to mention his heavy slap. He wanted to be naughty, but he didn't expect that he couldn't control his strength. The tips of Bailey Han's ears were slightly red. He was extremely annoyed and bent down to kiss the clear fingerprints. Xia Dong felt something soft land on her butt. It was like a feather moving gently around the area that he had slapped. Then the tip of a wet tongue licked her skin. She was so shocked that her back arched slightly. "Hubby, don't." She shyly moved her body, but his palm held her down tightly. He kissed her back slowly and a numb feeling instantly rose from the bottom of her feet to the top of her head. Her body trembled violently and her heart felt like it was about to explode. Unknowingly he was already leaning on her back. His hot lips were against her ear and his voice was filled with unbearable desire. "Wifey, do you remember what I said today?" "Boo-hoo. I remember." She had reason to believe that if she didn't surrender, he would torture her until she knelt down and begged for mercy. "What did I say?" He blew hot air into her ear. Her body trembled and her voice was intermittent. You want to eat meat? That's a good girl?" He kissed the tip of her red ear. That night, Bailey Han, who had endured for nearly half a year, finally got what he wanted. He ate a lot of meat. After eating the meat, he carried the unconscious Xia Dong into the bathroom and cleaned her up. Then, he held her in his arms and fell into a deep sleep with a satisfied expression on his face. The next day after Xia Dong woke up, she habitually touched the spot beside her. It was empty and a little cold. Bailey Han must have been awake for a long time. Inexplicably, she felt a little disappointed. She hugged the blanket and sat up from the bed. Her legs were sore. Thinking about their wild behavior last night, she couldn't help but blush and her heart beat faster. She covered her head with the blanket tightly. Beep beep. Her phone rang. Xia Dong picked it up from the bedside table. It turned out to be a message from Bailey Han. Little lazy cat, are you awake? I saw that you were sleeping so soundly this morning, so I couldn't bear to wake you up. Gigai, rest at home. I'll be back early tonight. Xia Dong laughed foolishly and replied, Is it convenient now? At that moment, Bailey Han was sitting in the meeting room facing all kinds of accusations from the group of old men on the board of directors. They blamed him for affecting the company's normal operations for personal matters, for letting the inexperienced Bailey Jing manage the company, and for affecting the company's performance and so on. Don't ask him why he sent a message at this time. It was because he felt that facing this group of old antiques was very boring. Also, his wife should have woken up by now. His phone vibrated with a message notification. Bailey Han glanced indifferently at a certain old antique, who was still talking non-stop, and replied calmly, It's convenient. After replying, he put the phone down on the table and suddenly interrupted old antique. His expression was solemn as he said in a heavy voice, As far as I know, during the time that Bailey Jing has been managing the company's performance has risen by 3 points. The company's operations in all aspects are going well. If you're willing to look through the information in your hands, you'll understand that what I'm saying is true. There was the sound of awkward coughing in the meeting room, as well as the sound of someone flipping through information and a very discordant ringtone. Wifey is calling, wifey is calling. The group of people almost banged their heads on the table. Under their strange gazes, Bailey Han calmly answered the phone and said softly, Wait a minute. He raised his head and swept his gaze over the people in the meeting room. His gentle voice instantly turned cold. Today's meeting is over. He abruptly got up, pushed his chair back and strode out of the room. His voice was gentle again. Wifey, have you had breakfast? He hadn't deliberately lowered his voice, so everyone in the meeting room heard him. Everyone's expressions became very interesting. Lu Zihao very calmly helped his boss tidy up the information on the table. Before he walked out of the meeting room, he gently and kindly reminded everyone who was already petrified, Everyone, the meeting is over. On the other side, Xia Dong scratched her head with a puzzled expression. Just now, I think I heard you say something about a meeting. Did I interrupt your meeting? No, I have to thank you for saving me from that boring meeting. Bailey Han sat on the sofa with his legs crossed and his body stretched out. He had a cheerful expression on his face and the corners of his lips curled up. Actually, it's nothing. Xia Dong's slender fingers clutched the corner of the blanket as she stammered, It's just that what? Bailey Han asked, the smile on his handsome face growing gentler. Xia Dong felt like she was going to throw caution to the wind. She gritted her teeth and said stiffly, It's just that I'm not used to not seeing you when I wake up in the morning. Oh, he said solemnly and didn't respond again. Xia Dong was a little discouraged. She didn't seem to be born with the gift of sweet words. Moreover, his reaction was so cold she was angry and was about to hang up when he suddenly raised his eyebrows. That's it? I thought you would say that you missed me and couldn't bear to part with me. Her eyes widened. After a while she said softly, Just take it that I meant it. How can I take it that way? Since you missed me, then tell me. I want to hear it from you personally. Bailey Han's gentle voice had a hint of bewitchment. All right, it wasn't like she hadn't said it before. She would just tell him. Fortunately, he couldn't see her blushing face. She was relieved. She lay on the bed and rolled around. Hubby, I missed you. I missed you too. His eyes were full of smiles. He seemed to have thought of something as his lips curled into a mischievous smile. There's an ointment in the drawer on the right. What is it for? The wound on your butt. His words were concise, but she blushed. Her mind couldn't help but think of some scenes that made her blush and her heart race. She knocked on her forehead to stop herself from letting her imagination run wild. She quickly found an excuse to hang up the phone. I'm hungry. I'm going to eat first. Bye-bye. He chuckled. Okay. Xia Dong came out of the bathroom after washing up. When she heard the sound of a message on her phone, she thought it was from Bailey Han again. She quickly took out her phone to check, but she didn't expect to see a message from a stranger. The content of the message made her face turn pale. I'm Xiao Bao's biological mother. Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 312. The content of the message made her face turn pale. I'm Xiao Bao's biological mother. Xia Dong bit her lip and hesitated for a while. Finally, with trembling fingers, she dialed the unknown number. Beep beep. The sound of waiting for the call to be picked up came from the phone. She clutched the phone tightly, her heart pounding like a drum. She was so nervous that her back was sweating. Click. The call was rejected. Xia Dong sat on the fabric sofa dejectedly. She didn't know what the other party wanted. She was typing a message, but before she could choose to send it, the other party had already sent a message. After the spring festival, I'm going back to my son. It seemed that the other party didn't want to talk to her directly and only wanted to communicate through text messages. Xia Dong punched the sofa angrily, deleted the word she had already typed, and typed a new message. I want to meet you. After waiting for about 2 minutes, the other party replied. I'm not in China right now. Be prepared. After the spring festival, I'm going to take my son back. Xia Dong could no longer control her anger and quickly typed a message. What is this? You were the one who abandoned Xiao Bao back then and now you want to take him back. Have you considered Xiao Bao's feelings? 10 minutes, half an hour, there was still no reply. Xia Dong called again, but the other party had already turned off the phone. I'm so angry. Xia Dong punched the sofa fiercely. She still couldn't vent her anger, so she used the cushion as a punching bag and punched it to vent her anger. Xia Dong thought for a long time and felt that she should first confirm whether the other party was Xiao Bao's biological mother. She dug out the phone number of the orphanage in Japan from a secret notebook. After she dialed an international number, she communicated with the orphanage director in Japanese for a long time. About a week ago, a Japanese woman came to our orphanage, saying that she was looking for her lost child. I took out all the photos of the orphans from the past 5 years. The woman looked at them for a long time and finally focused on Xiao Bao. She asked a lot of questions about Xiao Bao. Xia Dong gritted her teeth and asked, does that woman have any evidence to prove that she's Xiao Bao's biological mother? The director said, I looked at the birth certificate in her hand at that time, and it confirmed that she had given birth to a child. She also said that her son had a small red mole on his buttocks. Xia Dong's heart sank. There was indeed a red mole on Xiao Bao's butt. It seemed that the woman who had inquired about him in the orphanage was his biological mother. At that time, I gave that woman your phone number and planned to tell you about this matter, but I called your phone and it was turned off. The director's tone was apologetic. I'm very sorry if this matter has caused you any trouble. Xia Dong rubbed her eyebrows helplessly. I happened to be in Rome during that period of time, and I was using an overseas SIM card, so I missed your call. Can you tell me her name? Her name is Suzuki Sakura. I don't know much about other information. Okay. Thank you, director. After ending the call, Xia Dong's heart was in a mess. She called Suzuki Sakura, but her phone was still turned off. Ever since she revealed her purpose, she seemed to have disappeared from the face of the earth and would only appear after the spring festival. There was a knock on the door. Xia Dong took a deep breath and then slowly exhaled. She patted her cheeks and jumped off the sofa to open the door. Mommy? Xiao Guai stood at the door with a smile. Gigai, what's wrong? Xia Dong bent down to pick up her daughter and kissed her pink cheeks. Mommy, it's already past 10. I saw that you hadn't come downstairs, so I thought you were sick, so I came up to see you. Xia Dong smiled. Mommy is fine. She just has something to do upstairs. Come, let's go downstairs. She carried her daughter downstairs and found that it was very quiet. She was a little curious. Gigai, where are the others? Xiao Guai played with her chubby little fingers and said softly, Sister Hai Hai is sleeping. Great-grandma and great-grandpa are in the study. Grandpa and Daddy went to work. And Jing also went to work. Grandma has a date with the other grandmas, so she went out to play. Brother and Brother E are building a snowman outside. Xia Dong couldn't help but laugh. She rubbed her beautiful short hair. Gigai is like a loudspeaker, reporting everyone's situation. Xiao Guai blinked her big bright eyes and giggled. The loudspeaker is very loud and my voice is very gentle. The boys in the kindergarten all like my voice. You're so smug, little rascal. Xia Dong pinched her cute little nose. Let's go. Let's go see your 2 little brothers. Before the 2 of them went out, they wrapped themselves in thick down jackets. Xia Dong put a little down hat and a red scarf on Xiao Guai. Then she held her little hand and walked to the back garden where her 2 sons were building snowmen. It snowed heavily last night and the whole world was dyed white. The trees were covered in white coats, and the lawn was covered with snow-white blankets. The diligent servants had already cleared the snow on the road, making it very convenient to walk. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao were building snowmen on the snow-covered lawn. The two little guys didn't wear down jackets, only thick sweater jackets. Their handsome little faces were red, and their little noses were also red. They were as cute as carrots. They waved little snow shovels and had already built a chubby snowman. It was about a meter tall with a round head and a thick body. It didn't have any facial features or hands yet. "Mommy, I want to play too," Xiao Guai shook Xiaodong's arm. "Okay, go ahead." Xiaodong gently patted her little head. The little girl ran towards her two brothers with a smile. Xiao Yi looked up and grinned, revealing her snow-white teeth. "Mommy, come over and play with us too." Xiao Bao chuckled. "Xiao Yi, you don't know. Mommy is most afraid of the cold. She won't come over." "Who said I won't come over? Don't look down on me." Xiaodong snorted and walked over to her two sons through the thick snow. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao covered their mouths and snickered. Xiao Guai tilted her head and looked at the snowman for a while. She frowned slightly and said, "The snowman doesn't have a nose, eyes, or mouth. What are you going to use to replace them?" "Gigai, use this as the eyes and mouth." Xiao Yi slowly took out something from his trouser pocket and extended his hand in front of Xiao Guai. "Okay." Xiao Guai nodded happily and took two black buttons from his hand. "I'm going to put on the snowman's eyes." She tiptoed, picked up a button and pressed it on the snowman's face. Button a little to the left, a little lower. The children happily dressed the snowman. Xiaodong's lips curled up. She walked not far away, broke off two branches from a tree, and stuck them on both sides of the snowman's body. She raised her eyebrows proudly. "Use this as the snowman's arms. Does it look good?" Xiao Bao stared at the hat on her head. His big eyes blinked quickly and he revealed a cute smile. "Mommy, are you cold?" Xiaodong shook her head. "I'm not cold." He pointed at the hat on her head and continued to blink cutely. "Then contribute your hat to the snowman." "Ah, I thought you cared about me." Xiaodong grumbled, but she still willingly contributed the hat and put it on the snowman's head. "I'm still missing a scarf." Xiao Bao continued to blink. "Okay, contribute it all." Xiaodong took off the scarf and tied it around the snowman's neck. "Wow, it's so beautiful." Xiao Guai screamed and clapped. "I'm still missing a nose." Xiao Yi rubbed his chin. He took out a finger-thick carrot from his other trouser pocket and pressed it between the snowman's eyes and mouth. "Just perfect now." He grinned. "Wait a minute, I want to take a photo as a souvenir." Xiaodong had an idea. She quickly ran upstairs to get the camera. When she ran to the door of the living room, the butler appeared with a smile and a camera. "Young madam, I'll take a photo for you." "Okay, thank you." The mother and children made various poses around the snowman, and the old butler kept pressing the shutter to record their laughter and laughter. "Let's have a snowball fight." As soon as Xiao Bao finished speaking, a snowball flew at his head. He reflexively closed his eyes, and the snowball rolled down his cheek with a plop sound. Broken snow stained his face. "Ha ha ha." The culprit, Xiao Yi, held his stomach and laughed loudly. "Wah, I want revenge." Xiao Bao angrily wiped the broken snow off his face. He quickly grabbed a handful of snow from the ground, rolled it into a ball, and threw it at Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi nimbly hid behind Xiaodong, and the snowball hit Xiaodong's abdomen. "Xiao Bao, how dare you hit me? I want revenge too." Xiaodong pretended to be angry. She bent down and made a snowball from the ground. Just as she was about to attack Xiao Bao, a snowball hit her face. She wiped her face and looked at the culprit, Xiao Guai. She smiled and stuck out her tongue. "Mommy, I didn't do it on purpose." "Why, you two bad children are bullying me." Xiaodong squatted on the ground shamelessly. She lowered her head and rubbed her eyes with the back of her left hand as if she was crying sadly. Xiao Guai felt guilty and walked over with his short legs. "Mommy, don't be angry." "Xiao Guai, don't be fooled. Mom must be playing tricks." Xiao Bao was far away from Xiao Guai. He wanted to stop her, but it was too late. Ah, sure enough, Xiao Bao was right. Xiao Guai had a snowball on her face. She pouted her pink lips and looked helpless. She was so pitiful. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao ran toward Xiao Guai. "Mommy, you're too cunning." Xiao Yi wiped the snow off Xiao Guai's face with a helpless expression. "All's fair in war," Xiaodong shamelessly said without the slightest bit of guilt. "Humph, let's unite and deal with Mommy together." Xiao Bao's suggestion was immediately approved by the other two little rascals. The three children aimed the snowballs in their hands at Xiaodong. "Wah! You guys are going too far." Xiaodong yelled as he tried to fend off the attacks. "He all's fair in war," the three little rascals said in unison, using her words against her. Their laughter echoed in the cold air for a long time. Welfare Song Shu 566. Chapter 313. Xiaodong didn't know how to tell Bailey Han about Xiao Bao's background. After hesitating for 2 days, they welcomed the spring festival. The old mansion was full of celebration. The servants hung lanterns around the mansion and the couplets written by Bailey Han were pasted on the gate. Bailey Yun had rushed back from America to reunite with his family. Daodu was the most affectionate towards him and almost pushed him to the ground. She licked his face with her long tongue and saliva was all over his face. They hadn't seen each other for more than half a year, and Bailey Han had become even more mature. He was confident, elegant, and graceful, and his every movement carried a more steady and gentle temperament. He smiled and raised his slender eyes slightly. He hugged his family members one by one. Finally, he stood in front of Xiaodong and the smile in his eyes faded. "Long time no see, sister-in-law." Xiaodong reached out her hand and smiled sincerely. "Welcome back, Ayun." He reached out and held her hand very tightly, as if he wanted to hold her hand in his palm and not let go. Xiaodong tried hard to pull her hand away but failed. Her bright smile became unnatural and she had to remind him. "Ayun." Bailey Yun's lips curled up slightly and he slowly let go of her hand. Bailey Han quietly put his arm around Xiaodong's shoulder and smiled. "Ayun, I heard that your business in America is doing very well. Congratulations." Bailey Yun put his hands in his trouser pockets and raised his eyebrows. "Oh, it's not bad. I plan to enter the China market this summer." Bailey Han patted Xiaodong's shoulder and motioned for her to take care of the children. He reached out and invited Bailey Yun to sit on the sofa. "Father is very happy that you have achieved so much." "Is that so?" Bailey Yun leaned against the sofa and crossed his legs. He looked indifferent and casually glanced at Xiaodong, who was carrying Hai upstairs. There wasn't much to talk about between the two brothers. Soon the two of them fell silent and the atmosphere was a little awkward. Fortunately, Bailey Jing and Xiaoyi ran over. The two of them surrounded Bailey Yun and started chatting. During the reunion dinner, everyone was very happy. Bailey Xiong was in high spirits. Suddenly he picked up food for Bai Jinxiu on a whim. Bai Jinxiu pursed her lips and smiled. Her cheeks were a little hot. Although they had been eating at the same table as each other for decades, this was the first time he took the initiative to pick up food for her. Bai Jinxiu also picked up Bailey Xiong's favorite dishes and put them in his bowl. They looked at each other and smiled. The interaction between the two fell into the eyes of Bailey Yun, who was sitting opposite them. He lowered his eyes slightly to hide the coldness in his eyes. Old Madame Han also saw this scene. She pursed her lips in satisfaction and looked around. When she saw that there were many children and grandchildren in the room, she was even happier. She smiled and said, "Today is a good day for our family to reunite. Except for the children, everyone should drink to celebrate." Old Madame Han was usually very strict and didn't allow the family to drink. She only relaxed her control on festive days and allowed everyone to drink a few glasses. Xiaodong looked up at Bailey Han with a troubled expression. She would get drunk as soon as she drank. What if she got drunk and made a fool of herself? Bailey Han held her hand comfortingly and looked at old Madame Han. "Grandma Xia is not in good health. The doctor said that she can't drink. Let her drink instead." Old Madame Han nodded. "Okay, Xia will drink." The servant came forward and poured wine for everyone, including Xiaodong and the three children. Old Madame Han was very happy today and drank 2 glasses of wine. After eating, she felt a little dizzy and the servant helped her upstairs to rest. Bailey Xiong intended to be a competent father and drank a few more glasses with his 2 sons. The 3 of them sat around the fireplace and chatted. Xiaodong held Hai in her arms and accompanied by Jinxiu to watch TV. The 3 children sat on the thick carpet and played games. Laughter could be heard from time to time. The atmosphere of the whole family was very warm and intoxicating. Xiaodong turned her head to look at Bailey Han. The firelight reflected on his face and outlined the contours of his face. He seemed to feel her gaze and suddenly turned his head. There was a smile in his clear black and white eyes. The corners of her lips couldn't help but curl up. The sound of firecrackers and fireworks could be heard outside. She didn't know why, but she suddenly remembered what Suzuki Chisakura said. She was going to take Xiaobao away after the spring festival. Her mood suddenly became a little down. The pleasant ringtone of the phone interrupted Xia Dong's thoughts. She heard Bailey Xiong answer the phone. I'm at home now and can't go. Go to bed early. Ayun is back. I'll ask him to visit you tomorrow. It should be Lu Xiaoxiao calling. Xia Dong noticed that Bai Jinxiu's fingers moved and the corners of her lips curled up. Bailey Xiong patted Bailey Yun's shoulder and looked a little drunk. Ayun, go see your mother tomorrow. She misses you very much. Bailey Yun nodded slightly. I know, Dad. I'm a little drunk. I'm going upstairs to rest. You should rest early too. Okay, go ahead. Bailey Xiong waved his hand. Bailey Xiong and Bailey Han chatted for a while before the two of them left. Bailey Han took Hai from Xia Dong's arms. The couple said goodnight to the elders and then asked the children to go upstairs to rest. Bailey Xiong sat beside Bai Jinxiu and leaned against the sofa. He whispered lazily, it's just the two of us now. Do you want to stay up late? The corners of Bai Jinxiu's lips curled up slightly. Looking at his drunken appearance, she said lightly, why stay up late? You're already so drunk. You know that you're getting old, but you don't know how to control yourself. In the past, Bailey Xiong would feel very unhappy when he heard her say such slightly accusatory words. But today he didn't know if it was because he was drunk, but he actually felt that these words sounded very pleasing to his ears. He suddenly stretched out his arm and hugged her, who was sitting upright and still. He put his finger on her lips and smiled. Why don't you know how to say something nice? His sudden intimate action made Bai Jinxiu very uncomfortable. Her cheeks were hot and she pushed him. Hurry up and let go. Be careful not to let the children see. Then let's go back to the room and not let them see. Bailey Xiong suddenly got up and pulled her up from the sofa. He held her tightly in his arms. Come, let's go back to the room. Bai Jinxiu was born into a scholarly family and had cultivated a noble and elegant manner since she was young. She had always disdained such unrestrained behavior. Moreover, Bailey Xiong had never treated her like this. At this moment, being held in his arms, she was embarrassed and angry. She lowered her voice and said, Bailey Xiong, hurry up and let go of me. Bailey Xiong stared fixedly at her face. She usually took good care of herself and there were no wrinkles on her skin. It was delicate and fair like a prostitute's. At this moment she was embarrassed and angry and her skin was faintly pink. He couldn't help but feel a little restless. Under the influence of alcohol, he suddenly carried her up horizontally. Although his steps were messy, he didn't stumble. She nervously grabbed his clothes and whispered, What are you doing? Hurry up and put me down. He laughed deeply. Of course I'm carrying you back to the room. Don't be noisy. Be careful not to let the children hear. Bai Jinxiu bit her lip and glared at him angrily. Their room was on the 3rd floor. Fortunately, Bailey Xiong paid attention to exercise and Bai Jinxiu was very light, so he was able to successfully carry her upstairs. After they entered the bedroom and closed the door, Bailey Yun's figure flashed out from the corner of the stairs. He stared at the door with a deep gaze and gripped the phone tightly in his hand. Hey, Ayun, why are you suddenly not talking? Lu Xiaoxiao's voice came from the phone. He put the phone to his ear and said in a deep voice, I advise you to leave Bailey Xiong as soon as possible. Lu Xiaoxiao was stunned. Ayun, why are you suddenly saying that? Bailey Yun's lips curled into a mocking smile. In the past, after the reunion dinner, you could summon Bailey Xiong over with a phone call. Tonight you can't. Haven't you thought about the reason? Lu Xiaoxiao was silent for a moment and said, I know. He rarely comes to my place recently, but I've been with him for so many years. How can I be willing to give up? The mocking smile on his lips became more obvious. After so many years, you're still dreaming of being a rich lady. When will you wake up? Maybe I won't wake up for the rest of my life. Her tone was a little lonely. She shouldn't be like this. She was flirtatious, she was unrestrained, she was good at flattery, and she was very shrewd in planning for herself. This tone didn't suit her. Bailey Yun held the phone and the veins on the back of his hand throbbed. He said in a deep voice, Do you love him? She didn't respond. Her silence represented everything. His voice was cold. I thought you never loved him. Lu Xiaoxiao laughed self-deprecatingly. I used to think it was for money and status. Later, after he distanced himself from me, I realized that I had already fallen. You'd better give up on that thought. It's not too late to escape now. He's already being intimate with his wife. There's no place for you, the third party, between the two of them. His words were cold and ruthless, and they ruthlessly tore open Lu Xiaoxiao's scars. She was silent for a long time before she said, "I know." Bailey Yun said coldly, "Although I don't want to admit it, I'm your son. I'll be responsible for raising you. Don't betray yourself anymore." Lu Xiaoxiao laughed. "Ayun, you've grown up." Bailey Yun's face was cold. "I'm hanging up." "Thank you, son." She said the last two words very softly, but he heard them clearly. His heart trembled and he hung up the phone without hesitation. There was no one in the living room and the entire villa was quiet. Bailey Yun leaned against the railing and looked at the dark sky. He suddenly laughed, but that smile was very cold and very bleak. Daodu was lying at his feet and from time to time, he would raise his head to look at him. Bailey Yun rubbed his furry head and laughed self-deprecatingly. "Everyone is in pairs. We're the only ones left." In a distant place, the lights were shining brightly. That was the location of the city. He suddenly felt a little lonely. He wanted to know how many people were like him without a home on New Year's Eve. He put on his coat, took his car keys and drove his flashy Ferrari into the night. Charm Bar. It was very deserted and there were only a few people. Bailey Yun sat at the bar counter and ordered a cup of Bloody Mary. Under the dim light, the color of blood was indescribably strange. Welfare Hongcha 866. Chapter 314. Bailey Yun took out his phone and called Xiao Tianxing. "I'm at your bar. Come out and have a drink with me." Xiao Tianxing's voice was very low. "Tomorrow. Now the old man is educating me." Bailey Yun chuckled. "Okay, I wish you a safe retreat." Xiao Tianxing sighed helplessly. He wanted to say something but his father's roar came from the other end. "Which rascal is calling you again? It's the new year. Are you going to go out and cause trouble?" "I'm hanging up." Xiao Tianxing hurriedly said and hung up the phone. Bailey Yun stared at his phone and shook his head with a smile. He made a few more calls to his former friends, but none of them had time to accompany him. Some said they wanted to accompany their families, some said they wanted to accompany their girlfriends, and the most ridiculous one said he wanted to work overtime. At a critical moment, no one can be relied on. Bailey Yun shook his head and threw his phone on the bar counter. He gave up on looking for his friends to drink with him. The crisp sound of high heels could be heard. The bar was deserted and there was no entertainment. Bailey Yun naturally turned around and decided to kill some time. A slim figure appeared at the door. The doorman helped her take off her coat and she walked over in a pair of high-heeled leather boots that were more than 10 centimeters high. She was wearing a red sweater dress, black stockings and black sheepskin boots. Her wavy hair was draped over her shoulders and she had a great figure. Bailey Yun gave her a score of 90. As she walked closer, Bailey Yun could clearly see her face. It was a charming and delicate face, with curved willow leaf eyebrows, tender eyes, and a bit of charming crimson lips. Her appearance added a warm atmosphere to the deserted bar. All the men stared at her in amazement. Some of them were already eager to try and hit on her. Bailey Yun was a little dispirited. He raised his eyebrows and turned around indifferently to slowly taste his cocktail. The sound of her footsteps was particularly clear in the empty bar. He clearly heard her walk to his side and sit down beside him. Her voice was as gentle as water as she said, "I'll have a glass of Bloody Mary." Her Mandarin was a bit clumsy. She had a foreign accent and an oriental face. Bailey Yun was sure that she was either Korean or Japanese. His slender fingers held the wine glass and gently swirled it as he looked at the wine glass lazily. The beauty suddenly chuckled. "No man has ever ignored my existence like you do." Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows and looked at her sideways. He narrowed his eyes and said, "I don't like women like you." The beauty covered her mouth and chuckled. Her movements were extremely charming. "You're really direct. Someone once told me that he likes charming women like me the most. Is that so?" Bailey Yun's expression was indifferent as he replied casually. "Do you want to try my type?" Her fingernails were dyed scarlet. She stretched her slender fingers in front of him and her sexy red lips curled up. "My English name is Sophia. How should I address you?" "Bailey Yun." He politely shook her fingers and wasn't very friendly. She smiled. "I just arrived in China today. However, it seems like I didn't come at the right time. Everyone is busy with the holidays." He said indifferently, "The Spring Festival is a day for the whole family to reunite. It's very important to Chinese people." She glanced at the bar and nodded. "No wonder there are so few people in the bar." Her beautiful eyes were fixed on him with complex emotions surging in them. What about you? Why don't you reunite with your wife and child? Bailey Yun's lips curled up mockingly. The woman I love is already married. I'm still single. What a pity. Sophia shrugged. She supported her exquisite face with one hand and smiled coquettishly. I'm single too. Why don't I accompany you for the holidays? Bailey Yun turned to look at her and his lips curled up in a strange smile. How do you plan to accompany me? I'll accompany you however you want me to. Her slender fingers slowly landed on his sharp chin and gently stroked it, sliding down to his Adam's apple. It's a pity that I'm not in the mood. He held her fingers and slowly moved them away. If you want to have fun, find someone else. Sophia was startled and seemed a little surprised. She suddenly smiled and said, I came here specifically to look for you. Bailey Yun frowned and looked at her seriously for a while. His brows relaxed and he said lazily, I don't know you. Why should we know each other when we meet? She moved closer to him and leaned against his chest. Her arms wrapped around his muscular waist and her mouth was close to his ear. She blew hot air into his earlobe and whispered seductively, Tonight I'm your— What a persistent woman. Bailey Yun let her hug him and then leaned close to her ear and bit her earlobe. Her body trembled sensitively, and her arms tightened even more. He chuckled. Not only are you persistent, but you're also a sensitive woman. She stuck out her tongue and licked his ear. Do you like it then? What do you want? There was a hint of coldness in his laughter. A one-night stand or money? Your body? She was like a seductive snake as she wrapped around him tightly. Her hands caressed his back and chest unscrupulously. She looked up at him with her charming eyes that could melt him. She licked her sexy red lips with her pink tongue. And your love? Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows. You're too greedy. She smiled strangely. I'll get it. He laughed and shook his head. He couldn't be bothered to argue with her. She didn't explain and kissed his thin lips. The tip of her tongue traced the shape of his lips and tried to invade his territory. However, he was indifferent and kept his lips shut. However, to outsiders they looked like a pair of lovers who were kissing passionately. Even the waiter at the bar couldn't stand it and lowered his head to focus on the beer bottle. Sophia stubbornly kissed him. One of her hands quietly slid to his abdomen, and then slowly moved downwards. Bai Liyun's eyes were clear and cold, without the slightest hint of lust. He suddenly tightened his grip on her hand and abruptly pushed her away. He coldly said, The game is over. You can be eliminated. He was already tired of the boring game of hunting for women. In the past half a year in America, he had put all his energy into his work and rarely went to places of pleasure. He suddenly got up and took out a few notes from his wallet and placed them on the bar counter. That glass of beer is on me, he said plainly. He didn't look at her anymore and turned to leave. Sophia ran her fingers through her hair and looked at his back as he walked away. Her eyes were deep and serene, and there was a strange smile on her lips. She muttered a few words in Japanese, and it just so happened that the waiter at the bar understood Japanese. He clearly heard her say, I didn't expect you to actually change. Bailey Yun came out of the bar and leaned against the car with his eyes closed. After he was drunk, he started the car and strolled aimlessly in the city. Suddenly there were a few loud sounds and bright fireworks bloomed in the sky. He saw a magnificent scene through the glass and stopped the car slowly on an unknown street. He lowered the window and watched carefully. What are you doing? Let me go. Hand over all your valuables. Hurry up. The woman's scream and the man's threatening voice broke the beautiful picture. Bai Liyun didn't want to meddle in other people's business, but he heard another conversation. I've handed over all my things to you. Let me go. This little girl is not bad looking. Let us brothers have a good time. No, get out of my way. Bailey Yun opened the car door and walked towards the alley where the voice came from. He could tolerate robbery, but he couldn't tolerate men raping women. He quickly walked into the dark alley. There was only a dim street lamp here. He saw a thin woman fighting with two tall and powerful men. Their strength was completely unequal, but she didn't give up. She bit with her teeth and kicked with her feet. Her fierce look was like a little white rabbit that had been forced into a corner. A man raised his arm high and was about to land on the woman's face. Bailey Yun quickly stepped forward and grabbed the man's wrist. He dragged the man to the side and kicked him hard in the stomach. The man groaned in pain and hugged his stomach. He didn't raise his head for a long time. The other man said angrily, Don't King meddle in other people's business. Get out of my way, you're the one who should get out of my way. Bailey Yun coldly said. He pulled the woman behind him and punched the man's face. I'll King kill you. The man flew into a rage out of humiliation and rushed forward with a dagger. Be careful, the woman cried out worriedly. Bailey Yun kicked the man's knee. The man was caught off guard and almost fell. He took the opportunity to snatch the dagger in his hand and threw it far away. Then he flew up and kicked the man's crotch. Ouch! The man howled in pain. He was even louder than his companions. He hugged his lower body and rolled on the ground. Pick up your things and go, Bailey Yun said coldly. Oh, okay. The woman carefully picked up her handbag from the ground and followed behind Bailey Yun. They left this troublesome place. When they reached the brightly lit avenue, Bailey Yun turned around and looked at the woman behind him. He said indifferently, Where do you live? I'll send you back. It was the middle of the night and it was New Year's Eve. It was definitely not easy to get a taxi. The woman was stunned. She pointed at him and shouted, Bailey Yun, it's you. Bailey Yun looked at her seriously and frowned. Li Duobao? Yes, it's me. I didn't expect you to remember me. Li Duobao tucked her messy hair behind her ear and laughed. I thought your voice was familiar. I didn't expect to meet an old acquaintance. Bailey Yun frowned even more. Why are you here? Li Duobao's round face revealed an uncomfortable expression. I'm here to see my mother. She lives behind that alley. She pointed at the place where he had taught the robber a lesson. Let's talk in the car. Bailey Yun noticed that her cheeks were red from the cold. Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 315. Oh, okay. Li Duobao obediently followed him into the car. Tell me, since you're going to visit your mother, why are you here in the middle of the night? Bailey Yun turned to stare at her, looking a little unhappy. She lowered her head, twiddled her slender fingers and said softly, My mother remarried and my stepfather often drinks. When he's drunk he'll go crazy and say some nasty things. He even does some very strange things. Tonight he got drunk again, so I decided to go back to my own house. Bailey Yun's eyes narrowed and his well-defined fingers gripped the steering wheel tightly. He said in a deep voice, Did he violate you? Li Duobao lowered her head even more. After a long time she let out a soft Did he succeed? Bailey Yun suddenly felt a surge of anger in his chest, and he suddenly reached out to lift her chin. She shook her head frantically. No, he really didn't, idiot. Bailey Yun knocked her forehead hard and shouted at her, Why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you tell your mother? Tears welled up in her eyes. I lost my father when I was young and my mother raised me alone. It wasn't easy for me to find happiness. I don't want to destroy it. The anger in Bailey Yun's heart gradually dissipated, and an unknown emotion surged in his heart. He stared at her tear-stained face and after a moment of silence he said in a low voice, How do you know that your mother is happy? Maybe she's enduring it because she doesn't want you to worry. Li Duobao wiped her tears and smiled. No, my stepfather actually treats my mother quite well. I see her smiling happily in front of him. You're really a little silly? He didn't know what to say to her. He reached out to rub her hair, and there was a hint of gentleness in his voice. Where do you live? I'll send you back. She gave him an address and smiled brightly, revealing her cute dimples. Bailey Yun, thank you very much. Bailey Yun started the car and smiled faintly. Are you still flying international flights? Oh yeah. She suddenly remembered something and patted her head. By the way, didn't you give me a business card before? Yes, but you never contacted me. He suddenly turned his head and smiled at her. She smiled sheepishly. Because I lost your name card and forgot to save your number in my phone, I haven't been able to contact you. Bailey Yun chuckled. That really sounds like something you would do. Li Duobao laughed dryly. I can't help it. Just like you said, my brain capacity is limited. I often lose things. Do you know what I lost the scariest time? What? He raised his eyebrows curiously. Li Duobao puffed up her round face. I lost myself. It was the first time I flew to Europe. I was shopping during my break and missed the return flight. The leader scolded me terribly. Bailey Yun laughed out loud and finally stopped laughing. He looked at her in surprise. Li Duobao, I'm very curious. How did you grow up safely? Don't mention it again. She covered her face in shame. Bailey Yun laughed again. Ever since he went to America he rarely laughed so happily. After sending her to her house, Bailey Yun smiled. Rest early. She nodded. Okay, thank you. I'll treat you to a meal when you have time. Which day? Ha! Didn't you want to treat me to a meal? You? Actually, she was just saying it casually. She laughed dryly. As long as I have time, any day is fine. Bailey Yun touched his chin. How about the day after tomorrow? Li Duobao scratched her head. Well, the day after tomorrow is the second day of the Lunar New Year. Yes, I know. Then, don't you need to accompany your family or visit relatives and friends? I'm going to visit my mother tomorrow. I'm free the day after tomorrow. He looked up at her. Do you still want to go to your stepfather's place? No, she shook her head frantically. Then it's settled. I'll pick you up the day after tomorrow. He opened the car door for her. Just like that it's settled. Okay then. Li Duobao got out of the car and waved. Goodbye. Hurry up and go home. It's already very late. Okay, hurry up and go up. She was wearing a thick coat and looked round. Bailey Yun felt that she was very cute as she ran to the building foolishly. His lips curled into a warm smile. When Bailey Yun drove back to the old house, it was already past 1 o'clock in the morning. He slept until 10 o'clock in the morning. When he woke up he found that his family was already gone. He asked the butler. The butler said, Second young master, master and madam took eldest young master and his wife, as well as third miss to the Bai family. Master asked you not to forget to go to Xinghua Villa. Madam asked you to give these gifts to Mrs. Liu. The butler took a box from the table and handed it to him. He opened it and saw a pearl necklace and a pair of matching pearl earrings. Bailey Yun's eyes flashed with a touch of ridicule. Bai Jinxiu, who had always despised him and his mother, was now acting like a generous wife. She even gave his mother expensive jewelry. What was this? Showing off? Bailey Yun threw the box to the passenger seat and drove to Xinghua Villa where Lu Xiaoxiao lived. The Bai family. Bai Jinxiu's mother's family was also a very prestigious family in City A. Bai Jinxiu's grandfather, Old Master Bai, was a famous scholar in the Republic of China. Her father, Old Master Bai, was the president of a key university in a city. Xia Dong had seen Old Master Bai and Old Madam Bai at the wedding banquet. The two elders were kind, generous and easy to get along with. So this time she didn't have any psychological pressure to visit the Bai family with her parents-in-law. Sister, brother-in-law, you're here. Please come in. Bai Jinxiu's brother, Bai Wanli, and his wife greeted them at the gate. The adults exchanged greetings for a while. The three children politely stepped forward and bowed. They said in unison, Uncle, Aunt, Happy New Year. Good. The three children are getting cuter and cuter. Madame Bai smiled and gave each of them a red envelope. The three children politely thanked her. The children of the Bai family also came forward to greet Bailey Xiong and the others. Bai Jinxiu also praised them with a smile and gave them red envelopes. Old Master Bai and Old Madam Bai were still in good health. When the two elders saw their daughter's family coming to visit, their eyebrows were full of smiles. Especially Old Madam Bai, when she saw that the relationship between her daughter and son-in-law seemed to have improved, she couldn't close her mouth. The family sat together and chatted for a while. Old Madam Bai asked Bailey Han's cousin Bai Zhe to lead the young people to have some fun. The elders stayed in the living room and chatted. Xiao Yi and her siblings also ran to the backyard to play under the guidance of the children of the Bai family. After lunch, Bailey Xiong accompanied his father-in-law to play chess. Old Madam Bai took her daughter into her daughter's former boudoir and secretly asked her, I see that Xiong treats you well now. Is he still in contact with the woman outside? Bai Jinxiu shook her head. Not completely, but he shouldn't have much nostalgia. That's about it. After all, they still have a son. Jinxiu listened to Mom's advice. Don't be too strong in the future. When it's time to be soft, do it. Mom, I know. I'm already a grandmother now. If I don't grow up, the children will laugh at me. That's right. If you save his face outside, he'll naturally give you face when you're at home. The villa next to the Bai family was the home of Old Master Bai's younger brother, Bai Zongtong. Before Bai Jinxiu got married, she was very close to Bai Zongtong's family. Every year when she returned home during the spring festival, she would visit them with gifts. This year was no exception. As the younger generation, Bailey Han and Xia Dong naturally had to go with them. Xia Dong didn't expect to see Bai Meiwei here. Bai Meiwei was sitting on the sofa. She was wearing a white wool skirt and a pink silk scarf. Her long hair was tied up high and there was a sweet smile on her face. She looked elegant and generous. Beside her sat a hale and hearty old man with white hair. It was Bai Jinxiu's second uncle, Bai Zongtong. When she heard the servant's announcement, Bai Meiwei helped the old man stand up and smiled politely. Aunt Jinxiu, uncle-in-law, cousin Han, cousin-in-law. Xia Dong felt as if she had fallen into the clouds. What was going on? Bai Meiwei was actually Bai Zongtong's granddaughter? She was even related to her. She couldn't believe it. On the other side, Bai Jinxiu was already chatting with Bai Zongtong. Bailey Han supported Xia Dong's waist and went forward to greet Bai Zongtong. Xia Dong followed Bailey Han and called him granduncle. Bai Zongtong looked at Xia Dong and smiled kindly. So this is Han's wife. This is the first time I've seen you. Bai Zongtong and old master Bai were both very kind. Bai Jinxiu and the others chatted with him. Xia Dong maintained a smile on her face, but she was actually thinking about something. She inadvertently looked up and saw Bai Meiwei. She happened to be looking at Xia Dong with a strange expression. Xia Dong leaned against the balcony and admired the scenery. Bai Meiwei walked up behind her. I didn't expect to see you here. Xia Dong turned to look at her. There was a kind smile on her beautiful face, but in Xia Dong's eyes, that smile was extremely dazzling. I didn't expect it either. Bai Meiwei pursed her lips and smiled. I heard that Yi Siki and Lin Shihao are getting a divorce. Xia Dong's eyes narrowed. Her voice was cold. All of this is thanks to you. She smiled lightly and didn't feel guilty or embarrassed at all. A fly doesn't bite a flawless egg. If there was no problem between them, how could I have ruined it? Xia Dong sneered. Yes, someone is willing to be that disgusting fly. Even a flawless egg would have a hole in it. Since that's the case, I don't want that bad egg. Bai Meiwei's eyes flashed with anger. No matter what, I'm the winner. Add. Xingwu 799. Chapter 316. Xia Dong smirked. Are you so sure that Lin Shihao will marry you after the divorce? Bai Meiwei pursed her lips. Of course. Oh then congratulations. You're finally going to be the mistress. Xia Dong's tone was full of sarcasm. You want to use me to make Siki sad? You're too naive. Xia Dong and Bai Meiwei didn't have much interaction to begin with, but Bai Meiwei had taken the initiative to talk to her about Yi Siki and Lin Shihao. Her intentions couldn't be more obvious. She wanted to use Xia Dong's mouth to convey these words to Siki and make her sad. Bai Meiwei's eyes flashed and she smirked. You two are really good sisters. Xia Dong chuckled. A person like you is only fit to be friends with Su Xingqian. What's the saying again? Birds of a feather flock together. Bai Meiwei clenched her fists. Her eyes were filled with anger as though she was trying her best to suppress it. Xia Dong said mildly, Bai Meiwei, I really sympathize with you. After Xia Dong said this, she ignored her and walked past her. Bai Meiwei's sharp voice came from behind her. What do you mean? Xia Dong didn't even turn her head as she said coldly, Am I not clear enough? Are you a trash collector? You pick up the things that others throw away like they're treasures. So I sympathize with you. She walked straight ahead. Bai Meiwei was so angry that her whole body was trembling. Her hands were clenched into fists. Xia Dong walked out of the room, and Bailey Han appeared from the doorway in a flash. He held her waist and with a smirk on his lips, he said in a low voice, I'm starting to feel lucky that my wife's sharp tongue isn't used against me. Xia Dong snorted coldly. Because she was in a bad mood, she vented her anger on him and pinched his waist. Men are all bad. As long as the red flag at home doesn't fall, the red flag outside is always swaying. Honey, you've wronged me. The man standing in front of you is definitely a good man. Bailey Han hugged her tightly and led her down the stairs. Xia Dong looked up at him with a gentle smile on his handsome face, as if he would tolerate her no matter how she threw a tantrum. She couldn't help but rub his face and snorted, Your performance is not bad for the time being, but you still have to go through a long-term test. He stroked her hair as if he was comforting a pet. Don't worry. The sun and the moon can bear witness to my feelings for you. Mushy. She rolled her eyes at him, but the corners of her lips curled up. After returning home, Xia Dong was still brooding over this matter. Hubby, I didn't expect that Bai Meiwei and you were actually relatives. Why didn't you tell me before? You're still thinking about this? Bailey Han helped her take off her coat and hung it on the hanger. I don't like her. I hate her. It was this hateful woman who caused the breakdown of Siki and Lin Shihao's relationship. You never asked about it. Why did I remember to tell you about those irrelevant people? Bailey Han ruffled her hair helplessly. Don't be angry, okay? Irrelevant people? Aren't you relatives? Xia Dong glared at him. Her father, Bai Jiao, is just an adopted son of my maternal uncle and grandfather. He rarely interacts with us. Bai Meiwei is even more out of the question. I almost forgot that I had a relative like her. Bailey Han kissed her cheek. Do you feel better now? Yeah, a little better. She opened her arms and hugged him, rubbing against his chest. She gritted her teeth and said, I hate mistresses. I hate mistresses too. Let's not talk to her anymore. He sat on the sofa and helped her onto his lap. Yeah, okay. Something seemed to be wrong. Xia Dong suddenly looked down and realized that someone was burying his head in her neck. The corner of her mouth twitched. Hubby, what are you doing? It's obvious that I'm planting strawberries. He sucked on the delicate skin of her neck. She was speechless. I'm talking to you very seriously now, he continued to plant strawberries. I'm also proving my loyalty to you very seriously. His hand caressed her soft skin and she couldn't help but shiver. You don't have to do this to prove your loyalty. Of course you do because it only reacts to you. He deliberately rubbed that hot part of his body against her waist. Xia Dong's cheeks were red and she couldn't help but hug his waist. Who knows? You and Su Yunxian have been together for so many years. Are you jealous? Bailey Han bit her red lips, and his laughter was deep and pleasant. I'm not jealous. Xia Dong turned her head away, not wanting to let him have his way. Unexpectedly, her earlobe rubbed against his lips. He licked it gently, and an electric shock immediately passed through her body. His hands became even more unrestrained, and his low voice was bewitching. Back then you didn't just steal my clothes, you also stole something else. What? She raised her beautiful neck and her eyes were a little dazed. My first time. He suddenly lowered his head and bit her red fruit. She trembled sensitively, and her hands hugged him tightly, but her mouth was still unforgiving. Even if what you said is true. In those 5 years, you didn't touch Su Yunxian? Can you bear it? That's why I said it only has feelings for you. He held her waist and adjusted his position. No way, it's so magical. Xia Dong felt like she had been deceived by him, but she didn't have time to think about it, because a certain someone was already up to no good. You don't do it here, we've never done it on the sofa. A certain someone didn't listen to her protests at all, and had already started to use actions to prove his loyalty to her. Half an hour later. Xia Dong sobbed. Hubby, I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted your loyalty to me, Bailey Han said. There's more? Another half an hour passed. Xia Dong said, Hubby, I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted that it wasn't your first time, Bailey Han said. There's more? An hour passed. Xia Dong said, Bailey Han, are you done? Bailey Han said, I'm not done. Hubby, let me go. I believe that you haven't touched Su Yunxian in the past 5 years. I believe that you only have one woman and that's me. You really believe me? Yes, I swear. Are you done? Bear with it a little longer. Soon, Bailey Han, you lied to me. I was wrong. Okay, baby. After this tragic lesson, Xia Dong no longer dared to doubt Bailey Han's loyalty to her, nor did she dare to suspect that he had touched other women. When she woke up the next day, Xia Dong's legs were weak. She really wanted to lie down like this for the whole day, but today was the second day of the new year, and the family of 6 had to go to her aunt's house to pay a New Year's visit. She had no choice but to support her waist and force herself to get up. When she got out of bed, her legs were trembling and she almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, Bailey Han came out of the bathroom and quickly supported her. He had the faint fragrance of a shower on his body. He laughed softly and said, Do you want me to help you wash up? Go away, Xia Dong pushed him angrily. It's all your fault. Why was it so unfair? They had clearly exercised for a long time, and he was the one who exercised. He was full of energy but she was listless. After soaking in a hot bath, she felt much more comfortable. However, it was getting late and they had to hurry up and leave. The couple took the 4 children and drove to Xia Yun's house. After the Rolls-Royce drove out of the manor's gate, a white Maserati parked in the distance slowly followed behind them. Bailey Han quickly realized that someone was following them. His deep eyes flashed and the corners of his lips curved. Dear, hold on tight. And the 3 little guys behind us, sit tight. Xiao Bao shouted. Dad, what are you doing? Bailey Han chuckled. Getting rid of the annoying flies behind us. Someone is following us? Xiao Bao craned her neck and looked back. She saw a white Maserati not far from them. Everyone sit tight. Bailey Han sped up and the car immediately flew out like an arrow. They were already not far from the city and the number of cars started to increase. He shuttled through the traffic with ease and took a few turns. When he finally drove to the main road, the person behind the car had already disappeared. Dad, have you gotten into trouble again recently? Xiao Bao's beautiful big eyes blinked. Bailey Han chuckled. Recently, I've angered the group of old men on the board of directors at most. They won't go so far as to follow me. Xia Dong pursed her lips and her expression did not look too good. She suspected that the person following behind them might be Xiao Bao's biological mother, Suzuki Qian Sakura. Suzuki Qian Sakura had said that after the spring festival, she would take Xiao Bao away, so it was very likely that she had already arrived in a city. Bailey Han glanced at Xia Dong. Dear? Xia Dong looked up blankly. What's wrong with you? You don't look too good. Xia Dong smiled. It's nothing. Maybe the car was driving too fast just now. I feel a little uncomfortable. Do you want to stop and rest for a while? Bailey Han looked worried. It's okay, I'm much better now. Besides, we're almost at Aunt's house. Xia Dong quickly changed the topic. Hubby, I heard from Aunt that cousin Gao Feng has also come back to visit his family this year. Didn't you say that he works at the American National Defense Research Institution? Is the American side willing to let him return? It was already incredible that the American government was willing to use Chinese people to do that kind of confidential research work, let alone let him return to visit his family. Yes, I also think it's very strange, but this also shows that cousin is very powerful. Otherwise, the American government would not agree to let him return to China in order to appease him. Xia Dong's brows were filled with pride. When she was young, Gao Feng was her idol. This was the first time Gao Feng had returned to China to visit his family after going abroad. This time, not only did he come back, he also brought his wife, a beautiful American woman, Joanna, who was also his colleague. It was said that they had just gotten married last year. Because the government kept it a secret, Gao Feng was not allowed to tell his family. After a year of hard work, Gao Feng persuaded the authorities to bring his wife back to China to visit his family. Welfare Hongcha 866. Chapter 317. Although Xia Dong and Gao Feng hadn't seen each other for 7 years, they quickly warmed up to each other because of their blood ties. In order to get closer to her husband's family, Xiao Anna had specially learned Chinese for a period of time. Although she wasn't very fluent, she could communicate with everyone. She especially liked children. When others were chatting, she would hang out with Xiao Yi and the other 3 little guys. She spoke broken Chinese and played games with them. The children laughed kindly and helped her to correct her pronunciation. She would smile brightly and say, "Thank you," with perfect pronunciation, making everyone laugh. The family was happy and harmonious and the laughter was endless. When they parted, Xia Dong was a little reluctant. Gao Feng hugged her and said goodbye with a gentle smile. Xia, I'm often not in China. I'll have to trouble you to take care of Mom and Dad. Xia Dong said with a smile, Cousin, you're treating me like an outsider. In my heart, Aunt and Uncle are my biological parents. I'll definitely take good care of them. Don't worry and work hard abroad. Don't embarrass the Chinese. Gao Feng nodded and turned his gaze to Bailey Han. Han treats Xia well. Bailey Han smiled. I will. After Xiao Anna said goodbye to the couple, she hugged the 3 children reluctantly. On the way home, the Maserati didn't appear again. Xia Dong also made up her mind that she would tell Bailey Han the truth tonight. On the other side, Bailey Yun had already driven out. He had already arranged a meeting place with Li Duobao. When his car drove to the meeting place, he saw a girl in a yellow wool coat standing by the street. She wore a pink hat, her neat fringe covered her eyebrows, and a white scarf wrapped around her neck. She stood there obediently with a peaceful smile on her lips. She was like a bright ray of sunshine in the cold winter, attracting the attention of passers-by. Bailey Yun opened the car door and walked to her side. He said with a hint of reproach, Why didn't you wait inside? It's so cold outside. Behind her was a cafe. Li Duobao stuck out his tongue. I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to find me. Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows. I'm not an idiot like you. It seemed that the more familiar he was with her, the more he liked to provoke her. She pouted but did not refute. Why aren't you talking? Li Duobao frowned. Because you're telling the truth. I have no reason to refute. Bailey Yun couldn't help but laugh. Silly girl, I didn't expect you to be so self-aware. She smiled brightly. You said that this is my greatest strength. He rubbed his chin. She's wrong. What's wrong? She blinked in confusion. He looked at her sparkling eyes and smirked. Your greatest strength is that you're silly. She turned her head away and silently shed tears. Did he need to remind her of every sentence? This was too much. Let's go, silly girl. Bailey Yun suddenly grabbed her cold hand and led her to the car. Li Duobao's face suddenly turned red like a big apple. She lowered her head and stared at their hands. You let go of me, Bailey Yun ignored her. He dragged her to the car and opened the door for her. Get in. Li Duobao bit her lip and sat in the front passenger seat. Bailey Yun sat beside her. She immediately turned her head to the window and scratched the car door gently with her fingers. Bailey Yun was an expert in love. How could he not know that she was shy now? He chuckled and said, Have you booked a restaurant? She still didn't dare to look at him. Yes. Do you eat spicy food? Yes, I can. That's good. The restaurant is called Spicy Space. It's at Jinjiku. Bailey Yun booked the GPS and started the car. He turned to look at her. She was leaning against the car door and curled up into a small ball. She looked as cute as a fur ball. He coughed. No way. Didn't I just touch your hand? Do you have to stay so far away from me? She was silent for a while and said gloomily, Other than my father, you're the first man to hold my hand. Bailey Yun was stunned. Haven't you been in love before? He still remembered the story she had told him before. The man she had a crush on had confessed to her because of a bet with someone else. He thought that she was pretty and had a good personality. There should be many people who liked her. She lowered her head and said in a muffled voice, I've only been in love once. That was the time I told you. He has never held my hand. He thought for a while and apologized solemnly. I'm sorry. She said, Oh. He frowned. What does "oh" mean? It means that I've forgiven you. She suddenly turned her head and looked at him seriously with her clear black and white eyes. Bailey Yun, don't do this again. I'll misunderstand. Although she was silly, she was still a girl. She would also misunderstand because of some of his actions. Her serious expression was very similar to a certain person's. Their silly looks were also very similar. Out of the blue, Bailey Yun said something that shocked even himself. Li Duobao, let's go out. Li Duobao's eyes widened. You say that again. She thought she had heard wrongly. Bailey Yun pursed his lips. He had already realized that he had said something unbelievable. However, since it wasn't that person, it didn't matter who it was. He said slowly, Let's date. Li Duobao trembled. She hadn't heard wrongly. She rejected him without hesitation. I object. Bailey Yun looked at her in surprise. What? I'm handsome, rich, and likable. What's wrong with that? Li Duobao almost fainted. That's the problem. You're handsome, rich, and likable. Why do you like me? I don't want to play emotional games with you. Bailey Yun's deep eyes stared at her. The corners of his lips curled up. He didn't expect this silly girl to be so smart. Okay, pretend I didn't say that. That's good. In short, I'm not a casual person. Li Duobao was too shocked and patted her little heart. Bailey Yun didn't say anything else until the car arrived at the destination. He opened the car door for her and suddenly whispered in her ear, You deserve better. What do you mean? Li Duobao frowned. She didn't understand why he said that. He smiled but didn't say anything. He walked straight ahead. She quickly chased after him. The Spicy Space was a hot pot restaurant. It wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. The decoration was warm and it was very clean. Even though it was the new year, there were still a lot of customers here. The atmosphere was very good as the family gathered around the hot pot. Li Duobao had booked a seat in advance. The waiter led them into the private room. The private room was very warm. They took off their coats and hung them on the hanger at the door. Li Duobao was wearing a white lace dress inside. With her hair tied into a bun, she looked as cute as a princess. Bailey Yun was wearing a black sweater. It was very tight and outlined the lines of his chest. He had handsome features and looked very thin. Li Duobao didn't expect him to have a good figure. Li Duobao inadvertently glanced at his chest and quickly looked away shyly. She pushed the menu in front of Bailey Yun and said generously, Order whatever you like. Don't stand on ceremony with me. Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows. I can eat a lot. She patted her chest heroically. It's okay. Leave it to me. He glanced at her chest and couldn't help but laugh. Don't pat it. It's getting smaller. Li Duobao's cheeks were tinged with a faint pink. She snorted. Pervert. He laughed. His voice was magnetic and happy. They ordered a double-flavored pot. Li Duobao loved spicy food. Before cooking, she asked Bailey Yun for his opinion. He smiled and said that he could eat spicy food too. Thus, she poured most of the food into the spicy soup. The bottom of the pot was steaming and the water was boiling. The vegetables were already cooked and emitted a tempting fragrance. Li Duobao pitifully waited for Bailey Yun to start first. Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows and picked up some vegetables from the spicy soup. He rolled the vegetables in the sesame sauce. When the temperature dropped, he slowly put it into his mouth. He chewed a mouthful. His slender eyebrows furrowed and quickly relaxed. Li Duobao looked at him eagerly. How is it? Is it good? Bailey Yun swallowed the vegetables in his mouth and drank a mouthful of drink. It's a little spicy. Actually, it was very spicy. He could barely feel his mouth. She frowned in distress. I forgot to tell you that this is an authentic Chongqing hot pot. The chili is very strong. How about this? You can eat the non-spicy food over there. Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows and smiled. I can eat spicy food, but in front of you I can't eat spicy food. Come eat this. Li Duobao used clean chopsticks that hadn't picked up any food before and picked up some food from the clear soup into his bowl. Don't worry about me. Hurry up and eat. You're obviously drooling. He teased her. No way, she muttered unhappily. Her chopsticks had already reached into the red soup and picked up a large portion of it into her bowl. Wow, it's so delicious. It's so spicy. Li Duobao ate contentedly. Her eyes were sparkling, and her pink lips were red from the spiciness. It was as if she had been kissed hard. Bailey Yun was drinking water. He was agitated by this sudden thought and almost choked. He tilted his head and coughed non-stop. Li Duobao quickly put down her chopsticks and patted his back. Then she pulled his ear. Are you better now? Bailey Yun stopped coughing. His handsome face was red from coughing, and his eyes were misty as he stared at her. She felt uncomfortable being stared at by him. She let go of her hand embarrassedly. I'm sorry. When I was young I choked. My mother helped me pull my ear. She said it helped relieve the pain. He grinned. No wonder. I suddenly feel that you look like my mother. It hurts my self-esteem. Li Duobao moved her but silently and sat back in her seat. Attention Songshu 566. Chapter 318. Li Duobao hugged his round belly and followed behind Bailey Yun. He climbed into the Ferrari and stretched his body in satisfaction. It's so delicious. My whole body is warm now. It's great. Bailey Yun raised his fox-like eyes slightly and laughed. You're really easy to take care of. As long as there's chili for every meal, I won't starve to death. She stared at him with a smile. Are you full? I'm barely full. He smiled mischievously. But, seeing someone eating so happily like a little pig, I'm full too. Li Duobao sweated. He put his hands together and said pitifully, I'm sorry. Next time I'll definitely not bring you to eat such spicy food. There's a next time? He raised an eyebrow and his lips curled into a mischievous smile. Are you asking me out? I just said it casually, as if he didn't hear her. He continued, okay, let's go for Western food next time. I'll be the host. I already said that. I just said it casually. It's still early. Do you want to watch a movie? Watch a movie? Bailey Yun nodded. Yeah, don't tell me you've never watched a movie in the cinema before. Li Duobao smiled sheepishly. I just didn't expect you to suggest such a pure way to pass the time. He raised an eyebrow. How do you think I'll pass the time? Nightclubs, clubbing and so on? That's what the newspapers and magazines used to write about. Second young Master Bailey frequented nightclubs to seek pleasure. She said the last few words very softly, but he still heard it clearly. He laughed. Seems like I'm already famous. Even you've seen my glorious deeds. Li Duobao was a little embarrassed. Don't misunderstand. I don't mean anything else. He nodded seriously. I know. With your limited brain capacity, you can't possibly have any other ideas. You don't have to retaliate like this. As they chatted, Bailey Yun had already arrived at the entrance of the largest movie theater in the city. Thinking back, he really didn't do such a pure pastime. Most of the time he would find someone he liked in a bar and then carry her to bed. There were many promotional posters in the corridor. Bailey Yun put his hands in his pockets and smiled casually. Which one do you want to watch? I'm Human Skin in 4. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Li Duobao excitedly pointed at a horror movie poster. The corner of his mouth twitched. Change it. Why? I love horror movies. I want to watch a horror movie. Bailey Yun clenched his right fist and coughed. He looked a little embarrassed. I don't like it. Li Duobao suddenly realized and shouted, You don't dare to watch horror movies. He quickly covered her mouth. Keep your voice down. It was very embarrassing for a man to not dare to watch a horror movie. She blinked and signaled for him to let go. The lips under his palm were soft and felt good to the touch. He reluctantly retracted his hand. So let's change to another movie. She looked dejected. Alright then. How about that sci-fi movie? He knocked on her forehead. I thought romantic movies were your style. She was still depressed because she couldn't watch the movie she liked. She looked up and bared her teeth at him. What's so good about romantic movies? They only make girls cry. I just don't want you to watch a horror movie. Is there a need to show me such a bitter and vengeful face? Okay, I'll listen to you and watch a horror movie. Bailey Yun naturally held her hand and walked to the ticket counter. Halfway there, he suddenly realized that something was wrong and quickly let go of her hand. Li Duobao stared at him with a pair of sparkling eyes. I was careless and forgot about it. Bailey Yun's charming foxy eyes blinked. He reached out his hand and smiled mischievously. At most, you can hold my hand and I'll make it up to you. Do you really think I'm an idiot? Li Duobao slapped his hand away and rushed forward like a cannonball. He quickly jogged to catch up with her. Don't be angry. I didn't do it on purpose. She suddenly stopped in her tracks and quickly turned around. He ran too fast and couldn't stop in time. His hard chest bumped into her small nose. She covered her nose and wailed. I'm sorry. Let me see if there's a nosebleed. He hurriedly cupped her face, grabbed her hand and moved it away from her face. Her nose was red, but fortunately there was no nosebleed. She was in so much pain that her face scrunched up. She gritted her teeth and complained, Why are you so close to me? Don't be angry. Be good. He stroked her hair as if he was stroking Daodu, soothing her hair. She stared at him with her big beautiful eyes. Take your hand back. I'm okay. 2 steps away from me. I'm okay. He moved according to her instructions. He was so obedient that he didn't look like Bailey Yun at all. The two of them walked to the ticket counter. Li Duobao took out his wallet. Miss, please give me 2 adult tickets for X-Men. Okay, let's go. She turned around and waved the movie tickets in her hand. He looked at her deeply. Didn't you say you wanted to watch a horror movie? She puffed up her cheeks. Didn't you say you didn't like it? A warm smile appeared in his eyes, and the corners of his lips curled up. Bailey Yun held popcorn in one hand and a drink in the other. He shuttled through the dark cinema with her and found a seat. It was a 3D movie and the visual effects were quite good. The scene was grand, and Li Duobao was attracted by the exciting plot. He almost forgot about the popcorn in his hand. Bailey Yun reached out to grab a handful of popcorn from her arms from time to time and chewed happily. Seeing that she was attracted by the movie, he had the idea of pranking her. He pinched a piece of popcorn in his hand and quietly put it to her lips. He whispered, Open your mouth. She stared at the screen and didn't even look at his hand. Gigai opened her mouth, but he didn't put the popcorn in her mouth. Instead, he suddenly retracted his hand and put it in his own mouth. Li Duobao waited for a while, but there was no movement. She turned around and saw a certain someone chewing popcorn happily. His eyes were sparkling as he stared at her and smiled. He was obviously proud of his successful prank. Childish, she said angrily. She grabbed a handful of popcorn from the paper bag and chewed it as if she was taking revenge. The Ferrari stopped below Li Duobao's house. After the two of them said goodbye, Li Duobao waved and turned to leave. Bailey Yun looked at her round back and suddenly shouted, Li Duobao, huh? She looked back at him with a blank face. A warm smile appeared in his eyes, and his voice was gentle and magnetic. Thank you. I haven't been so happy in a long time. She was stunned. Her eyes curved and 2 cute dimples appeared on her face. You're welcome. She waved again and hummed a tune as she ran away. Bai Liyun patted his forehead. He felt as if he was going to fall ill. He actually felt that this silly chick was very cute. Bailey Yun drove the Ferrari back to the old mansion and hummed a tune as he walked upstairs. His phone suddenly rang. It was an unfamiliar number and a familiar woman's voice came from it. Bailey Yun, I want to see you. Bailey Yun said lazily, there are many women who want to see me. Tell me a reason why I must see you. The woman chuckled. We met at Seductive Charm. I'm Sophia. His tone was indifferent. We don't have anything in common. There's no need to meet again. Her voice was lazy and gentle. I don't think so. I know a secret about you. If you don't come, you might not know it for the rest of your life. I'm not interested. It's related to 5 years ago when you were in America. You took drugs and went to jail. This matter is more interesting than the two things I just said. Are you really not willing to hear it? Her voice was soft and seductive, but in his ears, it was extremely cold. He suddenly tightened his grip on the phone and his voice was cold. Location. Outside the manor, turn right for 100 meters. Bailey Yun put on the coat that he had just taken off and walked out of the manor with steady steps. His face was expressionless and his eyes were cold. After leaving the manor, he turned right for 100 meters. A white Maserati was parked by the roadside. He knocked on the window of the back seat and the car door was unlocked. He opened the door from the outside. The air conditioner was on in the car and it was very warm. Sophia was wearing a low-cut black dress that exposed a large area of her chest, and her deep cleavage was faintly discernible. The dress just covered her buttocks and her slender legs were crossed. Her black stockings gave off a seductive glow under the dim light. Her red lips parted slightly, and her slender fingers patted the seat beside her. She smiled flirtatiously. Come and sit. Bailey Yun glanced at her indifferently and sat down beside her. Tell me, why did you call me here? She leaned against him softly and wrapped her arms around his waist. She hugged him tightly and said in a gentle voice, Yun, don't be so cold. No matter what, we were once husband and wife for a period of time. Bailey Yun's body stiffened and he suddenly reached out, pinched her chin, and pulled her face closer to the light to look at it carefully. It was a very delicate and beautiful face, but unfortunately he did not have any impression of it. His slender fox eyes narrowed dangerously. Who are you? She chuckled. You already don't remember my English name, but do you still remember my Japanese name? I'm Suzuki Chien Sakura. You used to call me Chien Sakura. Suzuki Chien Sakura? Bailey Yun frowned and tried hard to dig out the name in his mind. It seemed a little familiar but he could not remember. You actually can't remember me. I'm so sad. Suzuki Chien Sakura hugged him and leaned her head on his chest. Yun, it seems that you used to have too many women. Bailey Yun did not deny it. When he was first sent to America by Bailey's family, he lived a very long life of debauchery. He took drugs, had promiscuous relationships, gambled, and mingled with people in the underworld. He had done all these things and the number of women he had slept with was uncountable. Add Jianghu 799. Chapter 319. Her slender fingers were nimbly caressing his chest as they wandered about. Bailey Yun grabbed her wrist and said, So you're saying that you're the woman I had a one-night stand with before? Suzuki Chien Sakura looked up and blew hot air into his ear. She chuckled. It wasn't a one-night stand. We fooled around for at least a month. But it's a pity that you don't remember. Bailey Yun pinched his eyebrows. I really don't remember. Make it clear. Chien Sakura chuckled. 6 years ago you were studying in the United States and I was also studying there. We met in a bar and we fooled around for more than a month. Later you hooked up with a waitress from the United Kingdom and you dumped me. Do you remember? Bailey Yun smiled bitterly. Sorry. Forget it. I didn't expect you to remember. Suzuki Chien Sakura stroked his handsome face and smiled. Bailey Yun looked down at her. You came to find me to rekindle our relationship? She narrowed her eyes and there was a strange glint in them. That's only one of my goals. There's another goal. I want to tell you something. He raised his eyebrows and motioned for her to continue. She smiled ambiguously and stroked his lips. There was once when you didn't wear a condom and I forgot to take the morning after pill. I got pregnant. Bailey Yun's eyes narrowed and he said, and then? She played it down as if it had nothing to do with her. Then I went back to Japan and gave birth to the child. He's already 5 years old now. Bailey Yun felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His heart almost stopped beating and all the blood in his body rushed to his head. His fingers trembled slightly. After a while he found his voice. You're saying that I already have a child now? Yes, it's a son. Are you happy? She wrapped her soft body around him. He pushed her away abruptly. His gaze was fierce and malicious as he pinched her chin with one hand. What are you trying to do by telling me all this now? A sharp pain came from her chin and she couldn't help but frown. It hurts. Loosen up a little. Answer me, he roared. He didn't loosen his grip, but instead increased it. She sucked in a few breaths of cold air and said while enduring the pain, the child is already grown up. He can't live without a father. How about we start over? Impossible. He refused without hesitation. What? You liked me a lot back then. Her eyes were misty, making her look pitiful. However, there was no pity in his heart. He sneered and said, Back then? Don't you know what kind of person I was back then? It was just a game. How could he have fallen in love with her? I advise you to dispel those thoughts as soon as possible. He flung her away and took out a handkerchief from his pocket. He carefully wiped his fingers as if they were stained with something dirty. Suzuki Chisakura clenched her fists. Don't tell me you don't care about your son anymore? Bailey Yun opened the car door and stepped out. He turned back to look at her. In the darkness, his expression couldn't be seen clearly. I'll give you a sum of alimony. How much do you want? Just tell me. Suzuki Chisakura jumped out of the car agitatedly. No, I don't want money. I just want our family of 3 to be reunited. He tidied his clothes slowly and said indifferently, You're thinking too much. Think of a sum and let me know within 3 days. He didn't look at her anymore and turned to leave. She called his name a few times but he ignored her. She angrily returned to the car and slammed the door. Bailey Yun looked calm on the surface, but his mind was in a mess. He actually had a 5-year-old son. He couldn't believe it. No, he had to calm down. He had no impression of this woman. Even if they had lived together before, it didn't mean that what she said was true. When she contacted him again, he had to get her to show him evidence. Even if he comforted himself like this, Bailey Yun was still annoyed. He took a bottle of wine and a wine glass from the wine rack and screwed it up in his bedroom. On the other side, Xia Dong was also annoyed and uneasy. She wrung her fingers and sat at the head of the bed, waiting for Bailey Han to come out of the bathroom. Bailey Han was wearing a bathrobe. He wiped his hair with a towel and sat at the head of the bed. Honey, why aren't you asleep yet? She bit her lip. Hubby, I have something to tell you. He looked into her eyes. Speak. I'm listening. She opened her mouth but couldn't say the words. In the end, she pulled his sleeve with a sad face. Hubby, if I'm hiding something from you and it's very important, will you be angry with me? Bailey Han put the towel aside and stroked her hair. He said softly, If you don't want to say it, then don't. Tell me when you've thought it through. She shook her head. She was so anxious that she was about to cry. No, if I don't say it now, I'm afraid it'll be too late. What if that woman named Suzuki Chisakura suddenly came to the house and made a scene, saying that Xiao Bao was her child? What should she do? Bailey Han reached out and hugged her. He comforted her. I won't be angry. Tell me what happened. You can't be angry. Okay, I won't be angry. Xia Dong closed her eyes and told him everything in one go. When Grandma took Xiaoyi away from my arms, I was very sad and kept thinking about him. In the end, Brother Shin came up with an idea. We went to the orphanage to adopt a child about the same age as Xiaoyi. This way I could ease my longing for Xiaoyi. That child was Xiao Bao. Now Xiao Bao's biological mother came looking for Xiao Bao. She wants Xiao Bao back. That's what happened. Hubby, you promised me that you wouldn't be angry? She grabbed onto his bathrobe pitifully, not daring to open her eyes to look at him. But she could feel that Bailey Han's entire body had stiffened. He held her hand very tightly. He kept silent. After about 10 seconds, his body started to tremble slightly. At this moment, she realized that the man who had withstood the storm for her actually had a weak side. Her heart ached for him. She hugged him tightly and kept saying, I'm sorry, hubby. I should have told you earlier. I've always treated Xiao Bao as my biological son, so I didn't realize it. I should have told you. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. He kept silent and only hugged her tightly. Xia Dong was very scared. She opened her eyes and looked up at him. She saw an extremely gloomy face. His thin lips were tightly pursed and his deep eyes were staring straight ahead as if he had lost his soul. She burst into tears. Hubby, don't scare me. If you're angry, just hit me or scold me. Don't ignore me, Bailey Han finally spoke. His voice was dry and a little cold. You should have told me earlier. I'm sorry, hubby. Xia Dong hugged him tightly. She was afraid that he would get angry and push her away and ignore her. Bailey Han felt as if there was a huge rock pressing down on his heart. It was extremely uncomfortable. However, when he lowered his head and saw that the little woman in his arms had tears all over her face and her eyes were filled with fear, a part of his heart softened. He sighed softly and stroked her hair. His voice also became gentler. Don't cry. Hubby, her careful gaze made his heart soften even more. He reached out to wipe away the tears on her face and said gently, Since you adopted Xiao Bao, why did the DNA test show that he and I are biological father and son? Her eyes suddenly widened. DNA test? When did you do it? How did this happen? Bailey Han's eyes moved. He quickly understood that Xiao Bao had done the DNA test without her knowing. He explained, Not long after you returned to China, Xiao Bao did a DNA test. According to him, he picked up a few strands of hair from my office. God, that guy Xiao Bao already knew that Bailey Han wasn't his father. No, that wasn't the main point. The main point was that Bailey Han wasn't his biological father. But why did the DNA test show that they were father and son? She looked at Bailey Han suspiciously and said whimsically, Hubby, don't tell me you had a relationship with a Japanese woman and she gave birth to Xiao Bao and I coincidentally adopted Xiao Bao? His handsome face darkened and he gritted his teeth. Idiot, you're my only woman. Oh hee, I'm just saying. Bailey Han knocked on her forehead. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed and he said in a low voice, Xiao Bao only picked up a strand of hair from my office. Who said that it was definitely my hair? Are you saying that someone else's hair could have fallen in your office and been picked up by Xiao Bao? Bailey Han nodded. Other than that, I can't think of any other reason. Xia Dong frowned. What do we do now? Xiao Bao's biological mother, Suzuki Qian Sakura, said that she would take Xiao Bao away after the spring festival. How did she contact you? Tell me in detail. Xia Dong explained the process of Suzuki Qian Sakura contacting her in detail. Finally, she said, Actually, I suspect that the car that followed us today was Suzuki Qian Sakura's car. I'm not ruling out this possibility. Don't worry. If she wants to take Xiao Bao away, she will have to meet us eventually. Xia Dong hesitated for a moment and said, What about our family and Xiao Bao? Should we tell them the truth? We can't keep this a secret for long. I'll find time tomorrow to tell my family. As for Xiao Bao, I'll leave it to you to tell him. Xia Dong's eyes reddened. Xiao Bao must be very sad that I cheated on his feelings. Bailey Han could understand that feeling. Just like him, he had always doted on Xiao Bao. When he found out that he wasn't his biological son, he was very shocked and very sad. He stroked her long hair and said in a low voice, Whether Xiao Bao is our biological son or not, our love for him will never be less. I think he will understand. Awesome novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 320. In the Study. Old Madame Dowager, Bailey Xiong by Jinxiu and Bailey Han sat together. Old Madame Dowager said, Han, why did you call us here? Bailey Han focused and told them about Xiao Bao's background. This was like a bolt from the blue, shocking everyone. Old Madame Dowager and the others did not recover from their shock for a long time. How could this be? Are you kidding? Bai Jinxiu stared at her son in disbelief. Didn't you do a paternity test? Bailey Han pinched the space between his eyebrows. Xiao Bao just picked up a few strands of hair from my office. I don't think those strands of hair are mine. Bailey Xiong frowned and was in a very bad mood. Then whose are they? The people who come in and out of your office are basically people from your company. Xiao Bao was adopted by Xia Xia from Japan. How could it be so coincidental that his father is related to your company? Besides the company's employees, there are also business partners who come in and out of my office. It's not easy to check them one by one. The most important thing now is that Suzuki Chisakura wants to take Xiao Bao away. Can we let her take him away? No. Old Madame Dowager, who had been silent all this time, suddenly slammed her hand on the table and said angrily, In my heart, Xiao Bao is a descendant of the Bailey family. I don't agree to hand him over to that Suzuki Chisakura. If she really loved Xiao Bao, she wouldn't have abandoned him years ago. Bailey Xiong sighed. Mom, even if that's the case, Xiao Bao is still Suzuki Chisakura's biological son. We have no reason to stop them from reuniting. If Xiao Bao is willing to be with Suzuki Chisakura, we can't stop them. Why don't we ask for Xiao Bao's opinion first? If Xiao Bao doesn't want to leave, Then we'll talk to Suzuki Chisakura and see if we can persuade her to give up custody of Xiao Bao. Jianghu was very sad. In her heart, the 4 children in the family were all equal. They were all Bailey's treasures. She was reluctant to give Xiao Bao away. Madame Dowager said angrily, "No matter what, I will not agree to send Xiao Bao away." "All right, Grandma, let's listen to Mom and ask for Xiao Bao's opinion first." Although the 4 of them had reached a consensus, they did not feel good in their hearts. They all sat in silence without any movement or words. The atmosphere in the room was heavy. At the same time, Xiaodong also called Xiao Bao out of the living room. The mother and son locked themselves in Xiao Bao's room, facing each other. "Mom, if you have something to say, just say it. You've been staring at me for more than 10 minutes. Xiao Bao's little face showed a helpless expression, and his little mouth pouted. Xiaodong pulled his soft little body into her embrace. At this moment, her heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. She didn't know how to tell him the truth. "Mom, what's wrong? Did you have a quarrel with Dad?" Xiao Bao felt something cold and wet fall on his neck. He said indignantly, "You must have quarreled with Dad. Just you wait, I'll avenge you." The little fellow danced with joy, wanting to break free from her arms and avenge her. "No." Xiaodong hugged him tightly, and there was a hint of sobbing in her voice. "Xiao Bao, listen to Mommy. No matter what you hear later, you have to believe that Mommy and Daddy love you very much and we will love you forever." "Mom, don't cry." Xiao Bao was most afraid of his mother crying. He reached out his little hand and patted her back, carefully coaxing her. Don't cry, don't cry. I know that you and Dad love me." The more sensible he was, the sadder Xiaodong was, and the more she didn't know how to say it. "Mom, what's wrong with you?" Xiao Bao's pink little face scrunched up. Xiaodong took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. She held his weak shoulders and looked into his eyes seriously. "Xiao Bao, listen to me." You, she stuttered for a long time but couldn't finish her sentence. Xiao Bao was anxious. "What's wrong with me?" You are a child I adopted from an orphanage in Japan. Your biological mother is called Suzuki Chisakura. She contacted me a few days ago and said that she would take you away after the Spring Festival." Xiaodong finished speaking in one breath. Her hands were tightly gripping Xiao Bao's shoulders, as if she was afraid that he wouldn't be able to accept the truth and would suddenly run away. Xiao Bao was stunned. Then he laughed out loud. "Mom, are you kidding me?" "I'm not kidding you, Xiao Bao. Everything Mommy said is true." Xiaodong held his face. "Listen to me, Xiao Bao. No matter what, your daddy and I will always love you." "No, I don't believe you. You must be kidding me. I did a paternity test. Daddy and I are father and son. Technology can't lie." Xiao Bao said emotionally. "The hair you picked up doesn't belong to Daddy. Xiao Bao, everything I said is true." Xiaodong's eyes were filled with tears. "I'm not listening. I'm not listening." Xiao Bao covered his ears and shook his head vigorously. "Xiao Bao." Xiaodong hugged him. "Listen to me. Mommy loves you. Daddy loves you too." Xiao Bao interrupted her angrily and pushed her chest hard. "I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Go away. I don't want to see you." Xiaodong stroked his back and said gently, "Baby, don't be agitated. Calm down first. Get out. I don't want to see you." Xiao Bao's eyes were filled with tears. He bit his lips stubbornly. "I'll go out first. I'll always be your mommy." Xiaodong lowered her head and kissed his forehead. The tears in her eyes fell on his face. She quickly turned around and left with her mouth covered. There was the sound of the door closing. The tears in Xiao Bao's eyes rolled down. He slid from the sofa to the floor. He punched the thick carpet with both hands and wailed loudly. It was dinner time. The butler knocked on the door of each room and invited everyone downstairs to eat. Everyone who knew about Xiao Bao's background had no appetite. Old Madam said that she was not feeling well and did not want to go downstairs. She asked the kitchen to make a bowl of millet porridge and send it upstairs. Although Bai Jinxiu and Bailey Xiong were sitting at the dining table, they were also depressed. Bailey Yun and Bailey Jing were meeting with friends and were not at home. The butler knocked on Xiao Bao's door for a long time, but no one answered. He felt that something was wrong. He took the spare key from downstairs and opened the door. There was no one in the room. He quickly informed Bailey Han and the others. Bailey Han and Xiaodong hurried upstairs. They looked around the room and found that the small Pikachu backpack that Xiao Bao often carried on his back was gone. His small laptop and small mobile phone were also gone. Xiaodong's mind went blank and her face turned pale. did Xiao Bao run away from home? Bailey Han held her hand. Honey, don't worry. Try calling his mobile phone. Okay. Xia Dong quickly picked up the landline and dialed Xiao Bao's mobile phone number. Bailey Han informed the butler and called all the servants to the living room. He asked them if they had seen Xiao Bao. Everyone shook their heads. Bailey Han's face was terribly dark. He asked the security guard again. The security guard said that he had seen young Master Bao riding an electric bike. He also asked him at that time. Young Master Bao said that his friends were waiting for him outside the manor. He went out to meet his friends and would be back soon. The security guard did not suspect him, so he let him go. Bailey Han was furious and dismissed the security guard on the spot. He ordered someone to check the surveillance video outside the villa and found that Xiao Bao went out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. At that time the family was taking a lunch break, and the servants were not in the front hall. No wonder he was not discovered when he ran away from home. Honey, his mobile phone is off. No one is answering. What should we do? Xia Dong was so anxious that she almost lost the ability to think. Bailey Han's lips tightened. Don't worry, honey. You can ask Mika Kito. Yes, Xiao Bao and Brother Shin are very close. Maybe he went to look for Brother Shin. Xia Dong's fingers were trembling when she dialed the number. After 2 rings the call was connected. The first thing she said was, Brother Shin, did Xiao Bao look for you? Mika Kito said in a low voice, No. What's wrong? Xia Dong was so anxious that she was about to cry. Xiao Bao found out about his identity. He ran away from home. I don't know where he went. If he contacts you, you must keep him calm. I'm afraid that he will do something stupid. Mika Kito's voice changed and sounded a little anxious. I know. I'm still in Rome. I'll immediately mobilize the brothers in a city to find Xiao Bao's whereabouts. When Xia Dong called Mika Kito, Bailey Han also notified the Dragon Gang and ordered them to immediately search the city for Xiao Bao's whereabouts. All the forces that could be mobilized were mobilized. All that was left was to wait. Xia Dong was worried and guilty. She cried until her voice was hoarse. It's all my fault. If I had been by his side, he wouldn't have had the chance to escape. Bailey Han put his arm around her shoulder and comforted her in a low voice. Honey, don't blame yourself. Xiao Bao is so smart. He will be fine. He just couldn't think straight. When he thinks it through, he will definitely contact us. What if he doesn't contact us? Although he's smart, he's still so young. What if he meets bad people? Honey, we love Xiao Bao and Xiao Bao loves us very much. He was just being impulsive. When he calms down, he will know that we are very worried about him. He will definitely contact us. Don't scare yourself. Be good. Xiao Yi and Xiao Guai also found out that Xiao Bao had run away from home. Both of them found it unbelievable. They wanted to ask why Xiao Bao had run away from home, but when they saw how sad and anxious the adults were, they held themselves back. Bai Jinxiu coaxed the 2 little guys back to their room. In the room, Xiao Yi pursed her lips. Her expression was very serious. Xiao Guai's delicate brows were knitted together. She carefully tugged at Xiao Yi's sleeve and asked worriedly, Brother Yi, does brother not want us anymore? Will he meet bad people? Xiao Yi sighed maturely and stroked Xiao Guai's hair. I don't know either. What happened? Why did Xiao Bao run away from home? Although he is naughty, he doesn't seem like someone who would do such a thing. Awesome novel Songshu 566. Chapter 321. That night, Bailey Jing and Bailey Yun returned home one after the other. When they heard that Xiao Bao had run away from home, they were very surprised. Their families were not in the mood to explain too much to them, so they still did not know much about Xiao Bao's background. At around 8 o'clock, the Dragon Gang suddenly called. They checked the exit records and found that Xiao Bao had bought a plane ticket to Rome. Bailey Han thought carefully. When Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi went to Rome last time, the tourist visas they applied for had not expired yet. This kid must have taken the visas and ran to Rome. He hurriedly made a call and told Beitang Shin about this matter. He asked him to contact Xiao Bao no matter what and stabilize Xiao Bao. After knowing Xiao Bao's specific whereabouts, everyone's anxious hearts finally relaxed a little. The old madam had suffered a lot today and was not in good spirits. The servants helped her back to her room to rest. Everyone else also left. Bailey Han came out of the bathroom and saw Xia Dong leaning against the headboard in a daze. He lifted the blanket and leaned against her side. He reached out and pulled her into his arms. Honey, don't worry. Mika Kito and Godfather already know that Xiao Bao went to Rome. They will take good care of him. Xiaodong leaned against his chest and whispered, Xiaobao must be very sad. Xiaobao must be very sad to suddenly find out that he was a child abandoned by his parents. It must be very difficult for him to accept, so he chose to escape. Bailey Han hugged her tightly and kissed her hair. Xiaobao is very strong. He will definitely pull through. She hugged his waist tightly. Hubby, did I do something wrong? If I had told him earlier, maybe he wouldn't be so sad. Earlier? When do you mean? When we just returned to the country and before we met you. Now that we've finally reunited as a family, and he has a mommy and a daddy, we're suddenly telling him that we're not his biological parents. Silly girl, don't blame yourself. This is not your fault. Whether you told him earlier or later, he would have been hurt the same. He hugged her tightly. His voice was low and his eyes were gloomy. It's not your fault. It's those irresponsible people who abandoned their children. If they did not want to raise the child, why did they have to suffer after giving birth? When the child found happiness, these irresponsible parents jumped out to disturb the child's peaceful life. How despicable. Although they had not met, Bailey Han's heart was already filled with dissatisfaction and anger towards Suzuki's. Speak of the devil. Just as Bailey Han calmed Xiaodong down, Xiaodong's phone rang. It was a text from Suzuki Chisakura. Let's meet at the Sunshine Cafe tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bailey Han stroked Xiaodong's hair. Do you need me to accompany you? Xiaodong shook her head. I want to meet her alone. Okay, call me immediately if anything happens. I'll ask Ahu to follow you just in case. He was worried about that mysterious woman. Xiaodong smiled. You're exaggerating. Ask Ahu to follow you. Otherwise I'll be worried. He looked serious and did not seem to be joking at all. She could only nod in agreement. Xiaodong woke up at 6 in the morning. She calculated the time and realized that Xiao Bao's plane should have arrived in Rome. She reached out for the phone on the bedside table and waited for Mika Kito's call. Suddenly, a large hand reached in front of her and pulled the blanket up to cover her. She turned around and saw Bailey Han's smiling eyes. She nuzzled in his arms. Hubby, you're awake too. He let out a low mm and hugged her tightly. After more than 10 minutes, Mika Kito finally called. Xia, don't worry. Xiao Bao is fine. He's with me now. Okay, brother Shin. I'll leave Xiao Bao to you. Do you want to talk to him? Xia Dong bit her lip. I don't think so. He probably doesn't want to talk to us yet. Tell him that we all love him very much and we'll wait for him to come home. Okay. After ending the call, Xia Dong let out a long sigh. It's still early. Sleep a little longer. Bailey Han pulled her into his arms and rubbed his chin against her hair. During breakfast, Bailey Han told his family about Xiao Bao's current situation. Everyone was relieved. At the Sunshine Cafe. The weather was very good today. The sun shone through the window and sprinkled on Xiaodong, who was sitting by the window. She looked calm as she gently stirred the coffee in her hand and waited for the person she was supposed to meet. Ahu was sitting at the table behind her with a newspaper in his hand. He seemed to be reading it seriously, but in reality, all his attention was on Xiaodong. The crisp sound of high heels could be heard. Xiaodong looked up and saw a woman in a red trench coat walking over leisurely. Her wavy hair was draped over her shoulders and she wore a pair of sunglasses. Her legs were long and slender and she wore a pair of high-heeled shoes. Xiaodong had a feeling that this was Suzuki Sensakura. Sure enough, the woman walked over to Xiaodong and calmly sat across from her. She took off her sunglasses and revealed her beautiful face. She extended her right hand and smiled. Hello, I'm Suzuki Sensakura. Xiaodong glanced at her right hand. Her beautiful nails were dyed red. She politely shook her hand. Hello. Mrs. Bailey, I'll get straight to the point. I want my son back. Suzuki Chisakura raised her beautiful eyes slightly and said with a faint smile, Mrs. Bailey, I'll get to the point. Xiaodong said calmly, Miss Suzuki, I adopted Xiao Bao according to legal procedures. He and I are already adoptive. Your relationship with Xiao Bao no longer exists in the eyes of the law. I can completely ignore your unreasonable request. These days, Xiaodong had flipped through many relevant legal books and had even consulted lawyers. Suzuki Sensakura's expression changed slightly. Her smile was a little stiff. Are you saying that you're not willing to return Xiao Bao to me? Xiaodong took a sip of coffee. If you're really doing this for Xiao Bao's sake, you shouldn't have made such a request. Xiao Bao is living very happily in our home. I think that he's not willing to go back with you. You're not Xiao Bao. How do you know what he's thinking? I'm his biological mother. Blood is thicker than water. I believe that he'll definitely choose to be with me. Xiaodong's lips curved into a cold smile. Blood is thicker than water. If that's the case, why did you abandon him back then? Do you know how much damage this will cause to him? Suzuki Sensakura's fingers tightened around the coffee cup. Her knuckles turned white. You don't understand what kind of discrimination a single mother will face. My parents even cut ties with me. At that time, I had no choice but to send him to the orphanage. Xiaodong's eyes moved slightly. After a moment of silence, she said, I can understand the pain of having a child out of wedlock because I was born out of wedlock myself. However, I've never thought of abandoning my children. I'm telling you this not to blame you or anything. I just want to tell you that I love my children. For their sake, I don't mind being mocked. I think that Xiaobao being with me is the best choice for him. If you really love him, you should think about him. Suzuki Sensakura didn't look surprised. Before she decided to take back the children, she had done a lot of research on Xiaodong and the Bailey family. Of course, she also knew that she had a child out of wedlock. She said calmly, as far as I know, the Bailey family has a rule that only the eldest son can inherit the family business. In the future, the Bailey group and the Xinghao group will belong to Bailey Yi. Xiaobao won't get anything. As for me, I'm already financially capable and I only have one child. If Xiaobao marries me, he'll be able to inherit a large amount of money in the future. Xiaodong looked at her steadily. Other than money, what else can you give him? Suzuki Sensakura smiled. I love him. Xiaodong smiled. In that case, we'll let Xiaobao choose for himself. Suzuki Sensakura raised her eyebrows. Okay, but I want to meet Xiaobao. You've already cultivated a relationship with him. I also need time to cultivate a relationship with him. This is only fair. This depends on Xiaobao. If he wants to meet you, I won't stop him. If you don't mind, I'd like to visit the Bailey family today and meet Xiaobao. Xiaodong pursed her lips. I can't do it today. Xiaobao went abroad to visit his family. Suzuki Sensakura's eyes were filled with suspicion. He was at home for the past 2 days. Why did he suddenly go abroad? Are you trying to play some tricks? We can escape for a while, but can we escape for a lifetime? This matter can't be solved by running away. Xiaobao is only going abroad for a short time. He'll be back soon. Okay, I'll believe you for the time being. After Xiaodong returned home, she repeated her conversation with Suzuki Sensakura to old Madame Gu and the others. Old Madame Gu was quite indignant. Since we've already established a legal relationship with Xiaobao, Suzuki Sensakura and Xiaobao are no longer legally related, why did we agree to let her see Xiaobao? I say it's better to keep her out. Bai Jinxiu comforted her. Mom, don't say such things out of anger. I think Xiaxia's approach is more appropriate. We can settle this through negotiation. This way Xiaobao won't be hurt. Xiaobao is a very smart child. He will make a wise choice. If he really wants to reunite with his biological parents, we'll only make him hate us if we stop him, won't we? Old Madame Gu sighed. I know, but Xiaobao has run away from home. Does that mean he doesn't want to stay in this family anymore? I just can't bear to part with him. Xiaodong's gaze was firm. No, he won't. I believe in Xiaobao. Grandma, Mom. Let's just give him some time. He'll come around. She had lived with Xiaobao for 5 years and knew him better than anyone else. He had run away from home because he couldn't accept his background, not because he hated the Bailey family. Beauty novel Xinwu 799, that you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.